Welcome to All Politics on All Local, the earthquake edition. We're getting ready to come on the air. We felt some more tremors. Felt some earlier today, felt some now. I hope everyone's safe. I hope everyone is staying calm while the Northeast gets the first earthquakes that we've gotten in many, many years. But today we have a full show. We believe elections are important. Every single election that we have is important. People need to show up. They need to hear from candidates. They need to understand what these elections are even about, right? And the election that's going to be on April 16th is for the Newark Board of Education, Newark Board of Education elections. So we want to make sure that everybody is going to vote and knows the candidates. So we already have our first candidate with us, and she is on Newark's Moving Forward team. Ms. Anderson, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to briefly go down the rundown of the other candidates and the other things that we're going to do tonight. So the first two segments are going to be with the Newark Board of Education elections, right? At 6:20, we're going to have the It Takes a Village team on with Jay Colter and Mutal El-Amin at 6, and that will be our segment tonight for Newark Board of Education elections. And we will probably have one last segment on the Newark Board of Education elections next week with any of the candidates who have not previously been on. Because we do think it's important to make sure that people are hearing candidates and that they're committed to voting and knowing that these elections are very important. At 6:45, we're going to have author Marcus Reeves, friend of the show, and good friend, come on talking about his new book about the Bronze Shields. He'll be joined with a retired Bronze Shield, Tijuana Jones Burton, and she'll be on at 6:45. At 7:10, we have a really nice segment about an anti-bullying play, That's Not Kool, that will be taking place this weekend, and we have a lot of different cast members who are coming on, including the director. Then after that, we have DJ Rhino and the State of Hip Hop. We're going to have some good conversations. It was pretty hot last week. We're going to continue that in that vein. And then finally, at 8 o'clock, we have Congressman Payne coming on in the Payne Report. The Payne Report with the Honorable Congressman Donald Payne, where we're going to be talking about what's been going on in D.C. and how that affects us as well. So welcome to All Politics Are Local. We are happy to have you today here, and Miss Anderson, welcome.
Well, hold on a second. You introduce yourself, and then introduce Zaid, and I'll introduce me.
All right. Well, yes, absolutely. I'm Jonathan Alston, co-producer, co-host, and we have with us Zaid, who is amazing activist over 40 years in the real struggle. Really helped.
Zaid is over 40. No,
46 years
in activist movements across the country, and so we're always happy to have him, our co-host, co-producer, on as well. And then, of course, we have with us Ed Riley,
and of course, I'm just the guy that hangs out with these two giants. I appreciate coming here.
He is the founder and creator of All Politics Are Local, started in 2010. And it's been going virtually every week since then. So, Ed, appreciate your vision for all this, because politics is important. Understanding what's going on is important. Having these conversations is important.
Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
So, Board of Education elections are coming up. There's a lot going on inside the board. And when the candidates come on, we want to try to get an idea of what they are, what their vision is of things that are going on within the city. There are different issues that have been going on, and when starting off with one, and that's the overall direction of Newark Public Schools. What do you think about it, and what is your vision for that? Very specifically, talking about the school expansions. There, we have a School of Data Technology. We have School of Fashion. We have Global Studies. We have we have quite a few schools now, and with more on the way. What do you think about the expansion of schools. Is that something you agree with? Something that you think that should go forward? We should do more of it. What is your stance on that as your role as a current member of the Newark Board of Education?
Okay, so current member, good evening, everyone. I'm Kanileah Anderson. Current member since January 25th of this year, so current but fresh. Um, the new schools started opening some during the pandemic. So some new schools opened in September of 2020, specifically the School of Global Studies that opened up 4 years ago. So they'll be graduating their first class this year. Initially, and prior to me being on the board, I thought that the expansion of the schools was going a little too fast. Um, I know that we need time to really gather data about enrollment and graduation rates and so on and so forth. And, in the climate in the schools, because everybody knows we've had some issues. So I'm interested in looking at those things to decide and determine whether or not we're going too fast, whether we need to slow up, or whether or not we need any more new schools. Having more schools means we would have, smaller class sizes, and the students can get more individualized attention and do better, because we know smaller classes and just a smaller environment are conducive to, higher achievement rates. So with that said, I would have to look at it. I need to see the numbers. So on yesterday, I was at the board. I was doing some work there, and I had a question about one school enrollment and how they're doing. So, I graduated back in a couple of years ago with the Department of Children and Families. They did a data fellowship. So we were looking at statewide data on our rates of children going into foster care and returning home or being adopted or something else, right? So it was a really big project looking at where we were as a state with regard to that type of stuff. So I'm into numbers, I'm into data, I'm into research. So I bring that same, I bring that part of me to the board, because that's what I'm looking at. Because you can't really say, oh, well, we're doing horrible, but you really got to look at things and not just numbers, but really who's in charge and what's going on in these buildings. So
When one of the reasons for, or seemed to be the reason for a lot of school expansions, was so that the Newark Board of Education could compete with charter schools. A lot of parents said we wanted choices, we wanted more choices, and so they started delivering, school expansion in order to do that. One of the questions, though, related to charter schools, is that we're having a board election right now. You're running in a board election, right? 1/3 of all money that goes to Newark Public Schools goes to charter schools. But there's no democratic accountability, as in there's no local democratic accountability. They're not accountable to the board. They get that money. And the question I have, do you think that charter schools, especially when there are criticisms that they don't accept enough English as a second language learners, they don't accept enough special needs students, right? Do you think that charter schools ought to be democratically controlled as well, like that they should fall under the Newark Board of Education or something along those lines? We keep saying democracy is important, and that voting is important, and that voting in these elections is important, right? That schooling has to be democratic. How can we say that and then not be like charter schools should fall under the Newark Public Schools, and the Newark Board of Education? They have to be accountable. What is excuse me? What is your position on that?
So we passed our budget last week, and a great portion of the monies do go to them. But for me, my understanding and my clarity on it is that, every child that lives in this city has a choice of where they go to school. And, the state funding is for each child's education. Now, while I don't agree that they get sometimes more money than a child in one of our public schools is getting, but, if parents want their child to go there, fine. But I don't believe that even the parents have the ability to address their board or something like that. Like I don't know how that works. I'm not very familiar with charter schools. I've never had my daughter in charter school. However, my niece and nephew did go to charter school, but I don't. I think that parents who do utilize the charter school system, like me, should want to be able to address a board, to hear what's going on a regular basis, same as we do. I don't know that the Newark Board of Education should could pull them in and have oversight over their activities, because they get a lot of private funding and things that we probably wouldn't even be able to control.
I mean, that is reasonable, but it's something I always want to bring up, because we're talking about getting 16-year-olds that have the right to vote. We're saying that democracy in education is important. And I just think that it's important that as long as we're saying democracy in education is important, if you got 1/3 of the money in Newark going to private institutions, right? They're publicly funded private institutions. We got to talk about that, because it seems like a contradiction, and at least the conversation is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the third question I'm going to ask is on a lot of the learning loss and the concern over reading and test scores. There was a lot in the news specifically about third grade reading scores that last year. What has been done, or what has been done to start to address this? And do you think that, and what is your vision of like what the board should do, especially addressing concerns that parents have over test scores? There were concerns about tutoring that's directly related to those test scores. What is your opinion about that? What is your vision of that? What do you think? Do you think that the Newark Public Schools is headed in the right direction with that?
Yeah. So the data that was gathered that produced those results were from 2021, 22, when the children were just coming back into school. So those children, in terms of learning loss, were in the beginnings of being educated all together. And so it's understandable that they didn't do well, a year and a half, 2 years after, being at home and sheltering in place during the pandemic, right? So I think that we are moving in the right direction, because we've already expanded extended learning time. So, tutoring takes place in school at least 3 times a week. Um, Children can come in early, they can stay late, uh, whereas children weren't able to participate in an extended learning program, prior to the second grade. Now all of the students can come in, and all of the students can participate. And we're not just working on the academics piece, we're doing some social emotional, and other extracurricular opportunities. So we've incorporated a lot of things that would help the students to boost their reading abilities. Like they have brownies and Daisy Girl Scout troops now. So I was a Girl Scout from 5 to 19. So I know that those activities are activities that we want to encourage parents to use at home with their little ones, right? That encourage reading, teaming, and just things of that nature. So I think that, with the longer school day, and then with summer coming up, and that summer being as long as the school day, that the children are going to be in the schoolhouse for so many more hours, right? That they will have opportunities to learn. And what I see is a lot of parents and people just say, "Oh, well, I send my kids to school to learn." Well, I guess those are the children that are going to be in the schoolhouse longest, and fortunately, they will have, you know, a lot of activities and ways to learn, right? And so we're not doing a lot of remediation, but meeting the children where they are and trying to get them over the hump and getting on point in terms of their reading ability and their comprehension and so forth.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, right? Like I appreciate the you talking about what's going on with tutoring. I know that there was recent controversy on a lot of kids not showing up for tutoring or not going to tutoring. Has that gotten better? Is that something that we need to work on? And what is your understanding, or what is your vision for just even that, right? Like kids even showing up. I know it was a huge controversy, or at least it was a larger controversy a few months ago, where there were articles written about like kids not showing up for tutoring, like it's being offered, but they're not showing up.
Right. And then that's before and after school. So some of it is happening during the day and in class. So that was a pivot, you know, to, offer the tutoring to the kids so they don't have to come early, they don't have to stay late. We're doing it throughout the day. And then that way we won't be missing out or, skipping over those children that really need it.
Oh,
So
interesting. So there's now, because I didn't hear that. There's now tutoring during the school day if kids, you don't have access to them
Mhm,
in the
mhm,
before school,
mhm,
you don't have access to them after school, because
mhm.
there are all sorts of reasons that could be
Right,
possible for that. You're saying,
correct.
hey, we made efforts so that we would meet them in school and maybe take them out of something and give them more tutoring one-on-one in those particular areas that they need.
Correct. And so, and I'm recalling, so I sit on the instruction and program committee. And so this was a presentation by the director of extended learning. Um, she reported out that, they might do small groups, 2, 3 kids, 2 or 3 students together, which, I know I like to learn in a group. So we have a lot of things in place that the community won't necessarily know about because it's exclusive to the board and the staff, right? And unless your child is in the school and having access to these things, you wouldn't really know about it, right? So when you read things in the media, they're not always 100% accurate. It's
Okay,
like,
that's
people are painting pictures, but, I guess, being on the board and working and doing the work makes you a part of an exclusive group of people. And, we really can't, I know I don't want to express or use a lot of energies to address, what, people think is going on. I think that I best serve the community by actually doing the work and making sure these things are happening. So, I'm telling you what I've learned in the last 60 days, right? So, in another 90 days or 120 days, I'm going to check back in. Where are we with this? Because that is my role, to make sure that this stuff is in place and getting done and actually improving, right?
And because that ultimately is the board's role. The board's role is one of oversight, right? Like,
Hmm.
is the district going in the right direction?
Right.
What are the things that need to be done?
Hmm.
And the final thing, and I'm going to open it up to Ed and Zaid. Um, do you think that the Newark Public Schools right now are headed in the right direction?
I do think that we are. I know that some areas need some correction, but I'm not going to take my sight off of it. If there's something that I think is not right, I'll bring it to my colleagues' attention, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to work on it. For instance, the attendance, right? And I just read an article yesterday from the New York Times about attendance, and it's not just us; it's a nationwide problem. Even the numbers are the same across the nation in terms of children not being in school. And why? Like, we don't have the whole why, and we can assume the whys, but unless we really know, we can't make any progress. But I brought that up in last week's regular board meeting, that we really need to, instead of giving the data, we need to drill down. We're hiring more attendance counselors. I think that their jobs need to be a lot more scripted. I've been a
What do you mean by
supervisor.
scripted? What do you mean
Like,
by
so
scripted?
having a protocol and procedure for an attendance counselor, right? So I work in child protection. I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been a supervisor for 15 years. So I know what field work requires, what documentation is needed. I know how, what is going on in the home, and bring it back, you bring it back, and we look at it, we make assessments and things of that nature to make sure that there is some improvement. And in fact, I mean, in my work, a lot of times we're working on attendance of the children in the home. So, I'm very familiar with what needs to get done. And I'm going to, put my 2 cents or 10 cents in there to make sure it's getting done, because I'm not too sure about how well, and haven't seen any reports from the attendance council. We actually asked for the assistant superintendent to come to the next meeting so that we could see what's going on, and then we can state our opinion and talk about what needs to be changed so that we can do better.
Okay. And Zaid and Ed, do you have any questions to ask?
I'm gonna let Zaid go first. I got one.
How much time do we have to? Because I want to be sensitive of everybody's time.
Well, not
you,
much.
You laid it out a lot, Jonathan.
Right. Not much. But because we have our other candidates coming on next.
Yeah, and I want to respect that. Kanileah, I'm very proud of you. I watched you grow up. You and your mother or your sister have been rocks in our community for a long time. I'm unapologetic about saying that, right? There's a concern that I have that, and this is me coming from the community-based violence intervention side, right? For all of the good that we have done in this town to drive violence down by more than half in just the last few years on the community-based violence intervention network, right? Most of the violence, as we know it, whether we got our hands on somebody or don't, are coming for the most part from a particular age group, and that's our kids, right? Yet we have this the space that really needs to be connected, and this is me now just sharing an organizing concern, right? An engagement concern, is that there is still this big gap between what we're doing in community-based violence intervention and our school system. An example, we just had a meeting with the Newark Public Safety Collaborative at Rutgers that does the data for the community-based violence intervention work, right? We had a person from public school security in the meeting, and we were raising up, what are the factors at West Side, where can, CVI work, help and whatnot. My man was clueless, all due respect to him. He was just clueless, and that's such an obvious space where, that's a partnership that's like long overdue. And it just has not developed the kind of organic character that I think we need to really take this in a more organic way to go even further and bring down the question of violence amongst our young. Whatever thoughts you have on that, I would greatly appreciate.
Agreed. So it came up in last month's meeting about, the gap and, the silos that you all work in, right? I see no reason for us to resist, collaboration with our street teams and, Anti-Violence Coalition and the other providers who came and presented to us at the meeting, because like they said, they're more community connected than, of course, some of our personnel, right? So it's a conversation that I want to continue, because I can recall back when Central moved up to the new building, and that was a rough year. We had a shooting outside the school or whatever. And from that point, the brothers in the school, our mayor was the principal and the brothers in school, they would come out and do the safe passage or what have you. And I mean, I don't know if it's more of because we're community people and we honestly love our community and we want everybody to do well and we come out. But that whole mentality just has to be persistent in this city all of the time. So it's a conversation that we need to keep having. It's an action that needs to happen. We really need to connect the dots so that all of the children are safe all the time going to schools. Some of those little incidents or whatever, we may not be able to curb them, but we can, but people have to respect our work, and they have to respect who's doing the work, because we all have the same goal for the community and the children in the community.
And that one space, and I want to let Ed jump in because I want to watch the time.
Right, because we are a little over right now.
Okay.
Yeah, that space that we just identified with the attendance, strong attendance officers and whatnot. There's a space for personnel development. There's a space for pulling personnel development from the CVI space, right? That can, help drive just some basic concerns that I think we can touch on. Ed, jump in. I'm sorry.
Well, John, I don't want to take up any more time. If we can just go ahead and move on.
Okay. All right, and you could jump in with the next. So is there anything that you'd like to add? You're running, is going to be April 16th is the election. Anything that you'd like to add?
Kanileah Anderson, B1, running uncontested for a 1-year seat. Moving Newark schools forward. My team is A2, A3, A4, and myself B1.
Thank you. And thank you. Good luck. And everyone remember to vote on April 16th.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, so we have our next guest is in the background, and welcome back to All Politics Are Local. I remember you came here when you were authoring your book, right?
Yeah, he's not in yet. He's still trying to get in.
Okay,
there he is. Okay.
All right, so unmute yourself. All right, so welcome to All Politics Are Local. I remember the last time you were here with the books. With a children's book, a really cool children's book that you wrote. So welcome back as this time as a candidate for Newark Public Schools Board of Education. The first question I'm going to ask is pretty similar to the question that I asked before, and that's, do you think that the Newark Board of Education is headed in the right direction? They're doing a lot of school expansions, really to compete with charter schools, but they've opened up quite a few schools in the last few years. School of Fashion Design, School of Global Studies, School of Data. There's the School of Data Technology. There's also the School of Architecture and Interior Design that's currently being built. Newark Vocational, the vocational school in Newark also reopened up. Do you agree with this direction that's currently headed in?
Jonathan, let him introduce yourself. We didn't do that.
Oh, absolutely. So, and in answering the question, introduce yourself first.
Peace and blessings to everybody. My name is Mutal El-Amin. I'm a social reformer from Newark, New Jersey. I've also authored a few books. I am running on the line It Takes a Village with my partner Colter, A7 and A8. In reference to the building of schools, we definitely need to have schools to be building more schools, more having more access to new technology. So as far as opening up and expanding what's going on, I'm in absolute agreement. Are we moving in the right direction as a school system? I would say, based upon the information that is coming out, I would say it's impossible for me to say that. I'm not gonna blame anybody specifically. What I will say is we have a culture, and a culture breeds results. And the results that we are currently seeing doesn't match the economic investment that our tax dollars are putting in.
Okay, so and that's, I hear that commonly, right? Like the Newark budget is, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, cool. The Newark budget has been recently passed that's over $1 billion of a budget. And many people have said that with the amount of money that goes into Newark Public Schools, that the results overall should always be better. It's a common criticism. What specifically, or what would you advise, or what would you suggest be done that's not being done? Like, how should money be better spent in that way? Like, is there something that you've identified as a problem, right, that can be affected with your role as or at least influenced with your role doing oversight?
Yes. So in reading the charts and the numbers that's going on, what I realized is that 75% of Newark students are economically disadvantaged. Because I run a community center inside one of those economically disadvantaged communities inside Bradley Court, I founded the community center there. What happens is we do after-school programming. And a lot of the kids that were having issues, upon being in an after-school program where reading is encouraged, where it's rewarded, where doing your homework and doing things is rewarded. So these are kids who normally wouldn't be in any after-school program. So they don't go to the Speedway after-school program that's in the school that's just across the street. And there is no other programming in that immediate area. So if I don't volunteer my time in order to say, listen, I know this is needed, I know this service is needed, right? I know that I'm not Superman, that I shouldn't be out here trying to save a whole community, but I know that I've seen the results. So I've seen kids that their parents are uninvolved in their lives. All of a sudden, these kids show up at the after-school program every day, because we definitely going to have some snacks, some food. We're going to have the computers. And after everything is done, after your homework is done, our reading assignments is done, we're going to watch some TV and we're going to have some fun. And I've seen this have a better effect. So just going about a microcosm study that I've been doing, I think that if we could implement this on a greater scale, we could mirror those results.
So really, it's about what you seems like you're saying is that we need more like individual tutoring, mentorship, after school, excuse me, with students, with kids, right? And there was when there was tutoring being offered, there was a recent story that said a lot of kids weren't showing up before and after school for that tutoring, right? And you're saying that a lot of kids come to your program, but they don't necessarily come to the ones in the school. What is some advice? Well, like, what is some suggestions that you would give if, like, you were elected? What is some of the advice that you would give, or what are the programs that you suggest, or strategies that you say that you would suggest to get more kids involved before and after school in the programs that are actually offered?
So it's a reason why the slogan is this: it takes a village. And that's because there's things that have to be in place. Before these kids came and start making themselves normal presences in the community center, I had to be around them. So they had to get to trust me and understand that this is a safe place. A lot of the programs that we see in the city, it's not readily available for everybody. We'll see maybe a post on Facebook or something. But what happens is in the community that I am, before I go service them, I make sure that I put a flyer on every single door. So we're talking about 275 units in the Bradley Court complex. Plus we got houses that surround it on Munn and Tremont Avenue. So that's an extra additional maybe 30 units or more. And what I have to do is I have to canvass the whole area. I have to put flyers to make sure that the community knows that there is programming in this area. And after that, the only thing you could do is be consistent. So one day there may be 2 kids there, but the next day there may be 30. So if I get discouraged when I see 2 kids there on a rainy day and I know I got to be there for, I'll never make it to that second month where everybody knows that it's programming here. This is a safe spot. The parents won't come in and say, okay, what other stuff do you have to offer? I need help with my resume. Do you guys do that? Yes, we do that. So it's about holistic healing. It's about building the community. So we got understanding that where our goal is to help the children grow up. We want to make sure that they're growing up in the best environment possible, meaning that the parents who may be affected by poverty, make sure that they have all the resources that they can have to make sure that the household is conducive to the child's education.
So you're talking about a lot more of community schooling, right? Like where there are, like in Westside, where they have washing and drying machines, right? Like where what happened at Central years ago, where you had people who literally had access to counseling, to their parents had access to counseling, and job training, et cetera. You're saying that needs to be the overall school model, so that everybody's, not just the individual kid, right, but their families have to be affected as well.
Yes, for cities like Newark, for cities like Los Angeles, for cities like New Orleans, who have historically been through deprivation, right? Resource deprivation. We don't want to pretend as if these things never happened. We don't want to pretend as if we're here and everybody needs to get where they gotta go. So when I'm reading the graphs, right, what it's telling me is that we are capable of learning at the same rate. We're capable of completing the same tasks at the same rate. So one school semester, Newark and every other school, we averaging about the same. Maybe we're averaging under the federal level, but according to the state, we right there as far as capacity, as far as ability. It's just that when it comes to the testing, that means who's helping this child? Who's giving this child the confidence to go in there and say, because I remember when I was going to school, it was a lot of times I maybe didn't feel that good about the test. But I had an older brother in the household who made sure, like, yo, okay, listen, if you don't know your algebra, listen, this is this. And that reinforced whatever it was that I thought. And that's kind of where I believe we need to go.
One question that I've been asking everybody who's been running, even the last from last year and this year, is that we talk about democracy in education. We talk about how important having like voting and having public access in education is, right? 1/3 of all public dollars goes to charter schools. and there's no local democratic accountability, right? Like as in, if you have a problem with the Newark Public Schools, you go to the board, and the board is you are running to be a democratically elected person who does oversight, right? So that if there are problems with the way that it is being run, there's a democratic recourse where you can at least know who to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Charter schools don't have that in terms of democratic accountability. They're not accountable to the public in the same way. Do you think that charter schools should come under the local boards of education so that they can be democratically accountable? I mean, we're going to have 16-year-olds vote. We keep telling them that democracy in education is particularly important. But it seems like if 1/3 of the money goes to private organizations, those are charter schools, private organizations that are publicly funded, I don't know. It seems like that seems to be a glaring contradiction that no one talks about. Do you think that charter schools should be under the Board of Education?
Newark, the name of it is Newark Board of Education. So that within itself says that's one umbrella in charge of educational quality. The fact that Newark doesn't have any oversight to charter schools is horrific. And I understand that wasn't anybody in Newark's idea. That came from Trenton. That was a part of the legislation passed when they was handing back over local control. So we're not blaming anybody for the way it stands. I'm just saying that is ludicrous for so much of our dollars to be going to these private entities, and we don't have any oversight over it. You mean there was times when my child was going to North Star where I was asking questions, but we didn't have access. So we're talking about there should be a standard across the board that we are the people, and what happens is the politics broke our educational system up, and right now it's like vultures. The charter schools are like independent vultures just picking at it, and they're going to keep on picking out these scabs unless we actually get together and say we will not allow this.
So, and thank you for your answer, Saeed. Ed, I know we're running out of time again, but do you have anything to add? Anything you want to ask?
I do. Peace, Brother Mutal.
Peace.
The question I got for you is of course, you just said prior that 75% of our kids in the city of Newark are disadvantaged. You talked about the after-school program that you have, that you're currently running. Let me ask you, where do you think our kids are, particularly the ones that you're tutoring? Do you think they're ready for this upcoming literacy test that's going to take place on April 29th?
Currently, we doing story time every day with my third graders. We're doing team projects. So for the ones that are struggling a little bit, we have somebody who's a little bit more capable, completing words, but making sure they sound them out. Are they ready? We're preparing them as best as possible.
Okay. All right. Is there anything that you'd like to add? The election is April 16th. We know that election's coming up. Is there something that you want to tell us about your background? Something you want to tell us about what qualifies you to be an elected representative in your biography? I'm going to let you end off in that way. I forgot to ask a question to our previous guest, and that's the question we asked everybody, and that's who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group? So when you are giving your answer about your bio, add in your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group, or it could be just someone you're rocking with now, someone you feel represents the campaign.
I'm gonna start off with my favorite hip hop guy right now is a rapper called D1. He's from New Orleans, and he has a very, very, very positive form of rap. And this crazy part is I'm Muslim and he's a gospel rapper. But his music is to date, but the message, and he's counteracting. That's the thing. he's counteracting the negative message. You know how some people just spit positive, but they don't go against the negative. What he's doing is he's giving resistance against the negative. So D1 from New Orleans, my favorite rapper currently.
All right. And that last part, like anything for your biography that you want to add, that would make you a great Board of Education representative.
That, and also tell us what line to vote for you on.
Absolutely. Peace and blessings. My name is Mutal, El-Amin. I'm running on the line. It takes a village with my running mate, Colter. A7 and A8 go out to vote April 16th. What makes me a prime candidate for this election is the fact that I wholeheartedly believe in the village. I wholeheartedly believe that I need my elders in order to make good decisions. So while I'm running, I'm not running off of my own bravado, right? So people get misunderstood as what our elected officials are exactly for. My job as an elected board member, I only have one employee to worry about. This is the superintendent, currently Roger Leone. It is our job to govern Roger Leone, get the messages or whatever is portrayed from Roger Leone, hand that information in a palatable way to the community. Get the community's advice for what direction they want their school systems to go in, relay that to Roger Leone, and start to create policies that push that. I am exclusively prepared to take on this task because for the past 7 years, what I've been doing in Newark, New Jersey is opening up facilities for social upliftment in these economic impoverished communities. So the community, the parents already know me from either helping them, trying to get training, or already being involved in their kids' life. So we're talking about, I'm not a transplant. And my job is not to bring all these good, lofty things that I want to bring. My job is to say, what direction does the community go in? And how do we best provide resources to meet that? So understanding that we got certain issues that are prevalent, i.e. that 3 out of 4 kids come from economically disadvantaged homes, right? So when we look at we look at 75% of every child in Newark, New Jersey schools coming from disadvantaged homes, and then we look at only 20% of our kids passing. The math is mathing. It adds up. It's a slight error. It's a slight percentage for margin, but we understand what's going on and the issue that we want to attack. What we want to attack, whether I get elected or not. I want to continue to tackle these poverty issues. I want to challenge all 3 of you guys who are my elders to provide me with mentorship so that I can be a better leader, right? I'm saying this on you guys' platform. I'm asking humbly, right? I'm not going nowhere. I'm 44 years old. God willing, this is the lane I'm taking. I'm not asking for it. I'm saying that so that I don't make bad decisions in the future based on either emotions or lack of experience. I need my elder men to step up and mentor me and other young leaders coming up. It takes a village. A7, A8, Mutal, El-Amin, Colter. Get out there, vote April 16th. Peace and blessings, elders.
All right, thanks for coming on, man. And good luck at the election.
Good luck.
Peace.
All right.
All right, cool. So that was our election segment, right? We're going to have hopefully some more candidates on next week. Want to thank.
What happened to Colter?
He didn't come on tonight. He actually contacted me earlier to come on, so I'm not sure why I didn't come on tonight. But I know that they're running together on It Takes a Village. So I'll reach out to him. He initially reached out to me, so I know he wanted to be on the show as well.
He follows the show regularly. He's
right. He does. Absolutely. So we are getting ready to go to our next segment of the show, and we are always honored to have long-term friend, impressive writer Marcus Reeves on the show to talk about this book called Bronze Shields, and we're honored to have a retired Bronze Shields with us. Tijuana Jones Burton, right? So you can hold the book up again. Now, and this is, I'm going to ask a series of questions. A lot of people don't know what the Bronze Shields are, don't know what impact they have had on our community. So just to start us off, to get us into this conversation, what are the Bronze Shields and why was it important to do this book? The book is like a series of interviews, right? There are a lot of interviews with a lot of people inside of this book. It's done. You see a lot of the different interviews that are being done, and it's expansive. It covers multiple administrations in Newark, right? So what are in the days that we're talking about policing and how to police and what type of police are, right? What are the Bronze Shields? What are the Bronze Shields, and why is it so important that for us to know their story?
Ty, I'm gonna let you take this.
Okay. Hi. The Bronze Shields is an organization that really helped the community. It really did. I came on the job in 1989, and I didn't know very much about the Bronze Shields before then, but a friend of mine who was already on the job and was a member of the Bronze Shields introduced me to the Bronze Shields. And what they did was they came into the community, and for those people or candidates who were looking to come on to the police department, they made it feel accessible. Like they say, representation matters. It really, and especially back then for a person of color and even a female, it really did matter because it wasn't very many females on the job at that time. But the Bronze Shields came, they embraced us, they prepared us. They had like little classes because we had to do a physical, and so they gave little classes for us, to just prepare us for what to expect once if we were accepted into the academy. And so I thought it was an organization that was very much needed because we needed to see people on the department who looked like us, and so it was very impactful.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of what Ty is saying, if you look at the totality of the organization, which actually started in 1959, in terms of making folks feel included, it really began as sort of a civil rights response to the Newark Police Department, which back in 1959 was predominantly white. And so you had all of these, as in a lot of cities, as in the South, you had all of these segregation going on and a discrimination against black people who wanted to join the police department. So you have this group of police officers who did join the force, notice these conditions. We have Floyd Bostick and others who were part of his crew, who noticed the conditions that were going on and the racist conditions within the department as well as the city, and they wanted to push back against that. So they basically formed this organization as a means to kind of voice to push back against the sort of the racist policies in the department, and also fight to begin to get more police of color, or basically black police officers on the force. And so basically that's what happened over the next 6 decades. They worked toward working with administrations to kind of increase police Black police on the force to work against discriminatory practices against Black police officers joining, Black people joining the force, women joining the force, Latinos joining the force. They've had, various lawsuits against this police department, as well as the the civil service.
Wait, so you had Bronze Shields, right, as an organization, as individual members suing the Newark Police Department at various points?
Right, exactly. You had they had a lawsuit back in like 1974, which was huge in basically breaking down certain requirements that were meant to keep Black people off the police force, or to at least keep the numbers low. And you also had members, like female members or females who were joining the police department, or who joined and didn't make the cut, and saw that there were practices used against women, who also filed lawsuits against the police department and the civil service to get, basically help more women get on the force.
So in other words, people were being weeded out for arbitrary reasons, but they were going, like, they would have a requirement that, like, you have to be able to lift like 200 pounds, right? And they know that is that really a thing? Was that a thing?
Yeah. Well, if you believe, like, one story in the book, one officer, she talks about taking the physical exam, and she had to do a run around a track, and she noticed that, but basically she was a track runner, and she ran circles around the guy she was running with, but the person who was timing them said that she was a little late, and she had clearly ran around the track twice and ran faster than her male peers, but they kind of set the bar, a certain way for her so that she wouldn't necessarily pass. And so she felt, what's going on here? There were height requirements, there were credit requirements, there were background checks. With, say, if you was I don't know, like an out of wedlock father, there would be like sort of checks on that they could use against you when you're joining the force.
So there were things that, if they looked at the demographics, right, they would look at, like, here is like what we see as something that would weed out a higher percentage of Black people. Here's who might be applying for the force. Here's what would weed out a higher number of women who will be going toward the force.
Yes, and hold it. Let's put this all into context too. Newark began to become a predominantly Black city right after the 50s. When the deindustrialization started, more white people began to move out of Newark, in sections like South Ward,
suburbanization. That's right.
Suburban areas. They began, and Black people who were relegated,
all of that.
Yeah, they began to move into places like the South Ward, where I'm from, the West Ward. So with that coming, you have more people applying to jobs. Back then, Newark had plenty of jobs. So if you're trying to be in a police department and you have these ethnic whites that kind of hold all of the power, you want to kind of, stem the tide, or kind of weed out those who, you don't want it to be too much. You don't want to make them the majority, even though that's what was going to end up happening anyway.
Okay. So that's one thing, talking about numbers, right? Like talking about stopping discrimination so that people can become police officers. There's another element that both of you touched on, and that's the civil rights aspect of being a police officer, right? Like in the book, there's conversation that during the Cory Booker administration, there was a lot of tension between the Bronze Shields because he was bringing in people from New York, quite specifically because he brought in like the zero tolerance Giuliani kind of thing, right?
And we ran him out of town, for the record.
You were around during that time, right?
What? I didn't hear you.
I said, Ty, you were around that time.
I was, yeah. He actually brought in McCarthy.
Yeah.
McCarthy came in from New York, and he came in with this real big ego, that he policed, he managed New York, and so Newark would be a piece of cake. and it wasn't quite that, and a lot of the members from the department felt like, it was hard to accept an outsider. We had very, very qualified people who we thought could manage the police department. But he brought in Corey brought in McCarthy, and it didn't work. It didn't last long.
No, also just the nature, right? Like, it wasn't just that he was from New York. I remember during that time seeing like black males stopped and frisked, like having to drop pants in the street, that kind of stuff, right? Like you would see there being like tactics that seemed to be targeting large groups of black males for stop and frisk type procedures that were brought into Newark. Was there a resistance to that? Like was it just that he was from New York, or was it because of the zero tolerance type policing, that the stop and frisk type policing that came from New York to Newark during that time?
I think it was a combination of both, right? Because many of us didn't believe that he understood the demographics, the culture of the city. And so there was a lot of pushback with that stop and frisk, because, we understood that in one hand, we want to make the community safe, but at the other hand, we couldn't do it by violating people's rights. And many of us knew that, and so it was a major pushback with that whole stop and frisk thing. And eventually the AG's office came in, because it was beginning to become problematic for the community.
Okay. And, with that, and especially in that particular era, right? Like, I know that, like, how did Black police officers deal with, like, what we saw in Tennessee, where we saw Black police officers engaged in police brutality, right? We know that KRS did one about Black cop, right? But it seems like the Bronze Shields, from their inception, and I don't know if it's fair to say this, from their inception, they kind of defined themselves, like, as I think Marcus, you pointed out, as in like a civil rights organization, right? Like, how did that deal with, how was there a tension with Bronze Shields having to police other members of the police, right? Especially during that Booker era, and even other eras, even before that. I mean, Zaid has been like, that was actually him and Larry Hamm talked about Newark police officers being in the Kerner Commission report in the late 60s. Newark police officers and the testimony and the level of brutality that the ACLU writes about, right? And they literally documented interview after interview, right? Like, of things, which is why there's a consent decree
Right.
now, right? Like, all that was evidence to how there being a consent decree. Does the book get into that tension of Black people having to police the police, or even like Black officers even having to police other Black officers?
I think there were several stories within the book from officers talking about having to deal with the whole stop and frisk, and how they were mandated to police the community, and basically how this ACLU had to come in and deal with all of that. In terms of how the Bronze Shields had to deal with that, I don't think they were I don't think as an organization they were involved with it.
Right.
But and in terms of that topic, I deal more with individual officers and how they felt, not in terms of how they were as an organization, because there's an evolution of the organization over the 60 years. In the 50s and the 60s, it's more civil rights. But as it's kind of like its purpose kind of evolves over time. One of its tenets of the Bronze Shields was not only to sort of advance Black officers within the department, but it was also about trying to create this kind of relationship between the Black community and brown community and the officers have some kind of relationship, which I think they were able to do. But in terms of like setting policy and things of that nature, they would only be able to do that as individuals, not as an organization. So.
Right, and also it's that personal touch, right? Because a lot of these individual interviews seem to be about how individuals reacted to the situations that they were put in, right? Can you give us? I know that Can you give us more flavor that can come from the book and your experiences about why we really need to care about Bronze Shields, why we need to read about them, why we need to know who they are?
That's for me, or that's
both, right? Because
you go ahead, Marcus.
Bronze Shields, we got someone who's writing about the Bronze Shields.
No. When I put the book together, first it's an oral history. So I wanted the Bronze Shields to tell their own story, which they did. But in telling their story, what makes it really important is that their history is interwoven with the evolution and the history of the last 60 years of Newark. So when you're talking about the riots, or when you're talking about the election of Mayor Gibson or Cory Booker, or the first woman, or the first female police director, it's a part of the Bronze Shield story, because either they worked that as an organization, they kind of helped push things, or individually they got out there and they stepped in for that leadership role. So, but as you move into, like, after the civil rights movement, you're kind of moving into, it evolves into more of a police, sort of a police association, not a union, but a semi-union. So you're kind of, advancing other officers. You're still working on a relationship between the community and the police. And you're kind of like everything else, you're kind of evolving with the times. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Oh, it does, right? Like, because why is it important? But also, I was for Tijuana Jones Burton, right? Like, yes. as a retired police officer of many years, why, and as a retired Bronze Shield, why is it important that people read this book?
Kind of like in tune with what Marcus was saying, is that, and what I said in the beginning, is that representation matters. And so when I first came on the job, I didn't know very much about the Bronze Shields. I didn't know about the organization, what it stood for, and how it really benefited the community. And so fast forward now, I think that people today, young people today, or just people in general, need to know about the Bronze Shields and what they represent, and how beneficial that organization is to Black people, because a lot of people just don't know, and so it's good to know that you have an organization out there that can kind of help you along where you may not have, just to have information, just basic information about the police department. And it's not easy to kind of get that information, but to know that there's an organization that can kind of guide you through, and also be there when you need help, is important. It's very important.
And also, I'm going to step over. I'm also going to piggyback off what Ty is talking about, what we call a Ty, because then we go with it. If you look at the Bronze Shields too, it's a police organization, it's a police association, there's a Black police association, and the Bronze Shields are a part of a continuation or continuum of other police organizations that started back in the 30s and in the 20s to push back against discrimination. And for whatever reason, they evolved into, either they discontinued or they still continue today. Well, where others started in the 20s and 30s, the Bronze Shields, of course, starts in the civil rights movement, but it's a part of our history as a part of America's police force. It's also a part of America's racial history in terms of, we suffer discrimination in all forms, whether we're, a civilian, whether we're officers, whether we're here or there. But also it also, in terms of the Bronze Shields, you also look at it in terms of its history as it aligns with a city that kind of evolved from, the where we were back in the 60s to where we are today. And now Newark is a Renaissance city. And the Bronze Shields, for every step, they were a part of that. They were just to give one example, they were the bodyguards for Mayor Gibson when he was running for when he ran for office back in 1970. So I mean, they've been.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were pretty much his security detail for that time. There's stories in the book about that. Then you have officers who were a part of when they were having the North Ward had the protests against the Kanileah Towers.
Kanileah Towers.
Kanileah Towers, and Mayor Baraka was leading that. They were coming out against them. You get officers from the Bronze Shields who had to police that situation, and they talk about working with that as well, and then so on and so forth as we move into the future. Cory Booker, the things go, the near riot with I forgot the woman's name, Strawberry. There's all kinds of
Yeah.
The election of Mayor Ras Baraka, all of that stuff. So, excuse me.
So really, it's
more time with them, Jonathan.
You said what?
Need a little more time with them because you know where I'm getting ready to go, right?
Where are you gonna go? Because actually, this is a really important one.
I want to ask Marcus what makes a hip hop writer want to write about the police, even though they're black. Because I know you're gonna have to explain that. But Tijuana, I want to ask you a different question. As a government officer going through the trenches like that, where do we need to go to continue to improve police culture in this town as we wind down on a consent decree? We got a ways to go yet.
Yeah, no.
Big gap between community and police in terms of trust. And that's one of the places where Guardian-like Black organizations have historically played in trying to build those kind of things. So what is your analysis as a veteran in terms of the generation of officers behind you? What needs to happen within the ranks?
Now that's difficult.
And underneath that is this question. Let me just say this too, just to help you, right? One of the things that we're very concerned about in this town under the mayor's leadership is the whole question of civilian oversight, right? To have a public vehicle for accountability. And there are pockets of Black law enforcement personnel in other places that support those kind of arguments. And then there are Black law enforcement personnel that don't. Right? The Bronze Shields can be a pivotal role in that conversation.
So personally, I've always not a total civilian review board, but I think that there should be civilians on the board because, police can get tainted in their view, and sometimes we need that different view, that outside view, that we may have become jaded, that we don't see the same. And so I personally always felt like, not like I said, not a total civilian review board, but I thought that it would be beneficial for us to have a civilian on the review board.
All right, Saeed.
Oh, and you had to ask me. You asked me what was I doing the book?
Oh, and just
what is a hip hop writer like you go? What is a hip hop writer?
And as some context, Marcus Reeves wrote one of the best books on hip hop that I've ever read.
Wow.
I say it all the time, right? I say it all the time. It's called Somebody's King. Rise to prominence in the aftershock of Black Power. So yeah, I mean, this was a very cool segue into the book you're doing about the Bronze Shields. So that's the context of the question. A lot of our readers might not know about your background. You wrote for Source, wrote for the College Entertainment Review back in the day, right?
That's right.
Ed Riley published that talked about hip hop and entertainment. But you've been a hip hop writer for many years, written on many hip hop publications. Wrote a really important book about hip hop. When the 50th anniversary came out, you were one of the featured writers in Chuck D's documentary. on hip hop, right? I enjoyed your segments in that as well. So that is really the rich context of that question. And anxiety, I'm just being a little funny, is like, so now you're writing about the police. So
what is the side of the police?
No, let me go. So when I was at Rutgers, I was in 100 Black Men, which was the male, or it was not. It was 100 Black Men at Rutgers University, and in that group, it was it was a bunch of brothers. But long story short, one of the guys I was one of the members of the organization who I was real close with was Levi Holmes,
right?
And basically, he became an officer. He's in the Bronx Shields book. One day we had a meeting of 100 Black Men, like a reunion, and at that I mentioned that I wrote the book, and he just kind of approached me and said, "Hey, I want to do a book on the Bronx Shields. Would you like to do the book?" And at first I was like, "Who the hell is the Bronx Shields?" And someone explained it to me what they were, and I had to kind of figure out how to come up with this. I said yes, but then I had to come up with an idea on how to tell their story and make it interesting. Not that it's, I just had to come up with a way. So I came up with the idea
of history is always the foundation.
And I came with the idea for the oral history, and also not to just tell the story of the Bronx Shields. I was like, it's also a story of Newark. And so in putting the book together, I kind of brought myself to it because I was like, wow, I've always wanted to write about Newark. And this for me was the perfect vehicle because they were for the community. And, however you feel about the police, they did make some kind of difference in the city. And they made some kind of difference in the police department. And at the same time, I wanted to kind of like tell this story, but I wanted to put it in a bigger context. And like I said, being a guy from Newark, I just wanted to kind of do that story and kind of do something for Newark.
Okay. All right. Well,
I just want to push back a little bit. I want to push back a little bit on Marcus, so that if you ever run into the mayor, so that he doesn't correct you, we don't refer to what happened in the '60s and what happened with the police as a riot. We refer to it, right? So just in case you run into the mayor and he said, "Oh, brother, we don't. That's not the language we use. We call it an uprising, right?" Black folk were rising up at that particular point and trying to stand up for what was happening to them, what was going on, particularly when you talk about, the Italians and, folk moving into Newark and Black folks trying to move in the direction of Black power. So,
but hold it. That's where I'm trying to go with the book. I wanted to kind of show the history of Newark, but the transition of Newark from this kind of white power base to a Black power base, which is really what happened. That's what the Bronx Shields was kind of trying to fight for in their world. So, and it kind of, we see it in all parts of the city, but that's the story I'm trying to tell. But in terms of, is it uprising, rebellion, it's all semantics, Ed.
It could be called semantics, but we want to make sure that when white folks, they understand that we were rising up.
Most of us, Marcus, getting that wrong, right? We want you to get it right. Now, one other thing too, I just want to say this for everybody's benefit, right? Is that piece is important. I know the Baraka elders are very appreciative for the Bronx Shields at that very pivotal moment. People don't realize how violent and how dangerous this town was with that racism and with that corruption. Right? We had some heavy problems when we had to run McCarthy out of here and bring it, all that, right? But there was a time before that. And Kwame Ture used to always say, you want to do your work so well that you affect defections from within their ranks, right? And the emergence of organizations like this is an internal or an inside expression of what we're talking about. The fight for Kanileah Towers, for everybody's historical benefit, was a profound frontal attack on racist housing discrimination in this town, right? This town was violently segregated.
That's right.
You go in the North Ward as a grown man by yourself. You taking your life into your hands.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Right?
That's true. And I can tell a story about that as an officer. You were not encouraged to police the North the same way you policed the South or the West. You know, if you went on Bloomfield Avenue, issuing tickets, right? You could issue tickets on South Orange Avenue with no problem at all.
You can't
but if you went on Bloomfield Avenue, you get called in the captain's office.
Huh?
Yeah. That was some real stuff. And so those were things.
That's Newark, New Jersey in my lifetime.
Yeah, listen. And so the Bronze Shields was instrumental in that if an officer got reprimanded for doing something like issuing tickets on Bloomfield Avenue, the Bronze Shields would step in, you know, on behalf of the officer. Because like you said, that's the city of Newark. You know, we do dissect it north, south, east, and west. But at the end of the day, Newark is Newark. And policing should be policing, and there should be no diversion or no difference in how you police one section of Newark than the other. So the Bronze Shields, in that regard, also was very supportive and instrumental to officers who may have gotten reprimanded, you know, for perhaps, you know, doing their job on Bloomfield Avenue. So.
Well, I know that we reached the end of this segment, but we really have to have both of you back to go more in depth on a lot of this history. I know a lot of things are coming out in terms of like the different stories and the different history, right? Like of what it was like. Like, I love that you were just talked about, hey, this is what it was like for real in the North Ward. If you were asked to police, we couldn't police Newark the same way, right? I wanted to get into the study that when Rasbrock was a councilman issued about guns in Newark, and they found that, and Zaid, you talk about this all the time, they found out one of the leading causes of
off-duty police trafficking,
right, of gun proliferation was being trafficked by police officers, right? Like, so it is one of those things where the Bronze Shields just has a unique history, probably in the country, as an organization that is trying to do good from within in a city that has gone through so many changes with regard to policing. And I even want to get more into what's going on now with like the approach to policing and violence and violence prevention. And the buy-in that's necessary for that. So there's so much.
And when we get them back, John, kind of go into taking a look at some of the other organizations like Noble, 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, and then show the differences and, you know, the whole movement from what was going on in Newark. Because in my mind, I've always believed that we were ahead of most of the movements that were taking place around the country. And I believe the Bronze Shields were ahead of themselves in that as well.
Fair enough, right? So really glad to have you here. Always, man, Mark, is always an honor to have you here on the program. We need to get you back more. Miss Jones Burton, very wonderful to have you here on the program. We have to get you back more because you retired. You have a whole history. We got to get you back for one of those super long segments where we just start asking you a bunch of questions.
And we got to give a round of applause for surviving the police department, man.
Thank God, yes.
That ain't easy.
Fair enough. So thank you so much. We ran a little over in this segment, but we have our next segment, which is on an anti-bullying play. And there are a lot of guests that are trying to get in. Just as a heads up, we can only get 10 people on at a time. So there are a lot of actors, a lot of young actors back there. So just when you're coordinating it, make sure you coordinate it because we're going to get some people on. We're going to put some people up to talk about this play, this anti-bullying play. But by the nature of the platform, we might not be able to get everyone on. But so thank you, right? Show us the book. Show us the book again, Bronze Shields.
You could get it on Amazon. Oh, ooh, there we go.
We got you.
Yep, you can get it on Amazon. I got my copy of it from Amazon.
Published by Robot Media, independent publishers.
Okay.
Black home publishing. So,
all right, nice. So thank you. Congratulations for both of you on the book, and we'll have to have you back on soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So, I was hollering at you to ask the ritual question.
Oh man, see, you should have just jumped in and asked. I'm so busy trying to get our future guests on to the stage, and our some of our little ones who are here.
Now you said it was 10. That's 2. There's 3.
Oh no, 10 guests in all. That includes us.
Okay, all right.
So Tania Simone, you're not connected yet, so try to get back in so that we can have you on. So I got a call, as I often do, from Marquise Lewis telling me something positive is going on in the community. And
hold on a second, John. We should just make Marcus, a producer. He's starting to produce shows on the show.
I mean, he's like, hey man, I got this. There's this thing going on. It's really good. We just want to have him on the program. Like, yeah, let's just try to make some time, because we know it's good. We know it's going to be quality stuff. We know that we want to have it on. And
these are some good-looking young people I'm looking at too, man.
And I know that Marquise appreciates you saying that at least about one of them, who happens to be his son, right? So
okay.
On that as well. And this, there is I
thought we got some grown folks in the conversation.
We got some grown folks in the conversation as well, right?
Yes.
And it's great, right? Because this is an anti-bullying play. Mm-hmm. And it's called That's Not Kool. And they've already received write-up in a lot of local media. So when I got the call that, like, hey, we got these kids on, they're really good. Let's have them on because there's a really important thing that they are doing. So tell us, what is That's Not Kool? And what is that production? What is an anti-bullying production? And why should we go see it?
Who's the playwright?
The playwright is Reverend Dr. Congressman.
Yeah, let's jump into it first. What is this play? Okay. Why should we see it? What is an anti-bullying play?
Yes, well, this play is about bullying, which is all over the world, but we're mainly looking at our children and how it's affecting our children. You should come see the play because our children goes to school and we don't know what they're going through in school. And it shows you all different phases of bullying in this play. And hopefully it will get out to the community and it will help our community and our race and our world to stop the bullying, to stop the power that people want to have over other people.
Are you actresses in the play?
Yes. And causing the parents to listen to the children. We're very busy, everybody's working, but you have to stop and listen and know what's going on in your children's life. Bullying, we really just tip the iceberg because we're dealing with our youth, and our youth is our future. If they don't realize the evil of bullying, then we don't have a future. But bullying is so prevalent now because of the social media and the internet that it's just totally out of control, and it's causing lots of damage to our youth.
Where is this? When is this play going on?
April 12th and 13th, and it's going to be at in Roselle at the community church, Chestnut Street Community Church. Mm-hmm.
I'm laughing because I went to school in Roselle.
Okay.
A long time ago. In that little town, did not want to have these kind of conversations. That's why I left their behinds back in the 70s. So I'm glad to see it there.
Yes. And we have two of our
Actually,
Mason and Shahadah, say something. Go
yeah,
ahead.
they are major parts in the
Yes.
show.
So tell us, right? So the young voices in here.
It
What
starts.
made you-
It's in. We don't want to tell you. We want you to come see it, but it is in a school. Okay, it's a school setting.
Right.
So, and it gives you different aspects of bullying.
So what made you so that for the kids? What made you decide to do this play, and why should people come see you in it? I hear two of you are starring in this play.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, adorable little kids.
Tell
So
them
what
something,
made
y'all.
you do this play? Like, why is it important? What made you do it?
It's important because in my school there's a lot of bullying. And I see it like all around the school and it's like, okay, well, it's not right. So I feel like that's an important place so everybody can hear about it, everybody can see why that's so bad. Stuff that's going on in your house, you don't know what people are going through in their households to be bullying them, and you don't know what people can do when you are bullying them. So that's why I'm doing it, so I can show kids and people my age and adults that that's not cool.
Okay.
Shahadah, you have a very powerful first name, by the way.
What grade are you
Thank you.
First name, right?
What
But this
grade
is
are you in?
the Shahadah means something, right?
Yeah,
What
Assalamu
grade are
alaikum.
you? Wa alaikum salam, right? Now, where are y'all in school at?
Me, I go to school at Discovery and I'm in the 5th grade.
Okay, okay.
I go to school.
Mason.
I go to school in Harriet Tubman. I'm in the 5th grade as well.
All right.
Great.
So
Fifth grade
tell us,
is all
why
of
did
my
you?
time.
Mason Lewis, why did you decide to do this play? Why is it important to you?
I decided to do this play because I did a play for Initials Entertainment before, and I decided to do another one. And when I heard that it would be about bullying, I thought it would be very interesting to see the characters in this play and how it would like take form. I think bullying is a very important part in this play because bullying can be used against people to make them feel less what's the word make them feel like less confident and make them feel insecure, and the person that's bullying them is like Shahadah said, they could be going through something as well, like one of the characters in the play. But yeah, and bullying is just not cool. It's not cool at all, and I don't think it should ever happen to anyone at all. It's not fun, and it makes fun of people.
Listening to the two of you, as kids, something tells me, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm totally wrong, maybe I'm off base about this, completely off base about this, but it seems like y'all have intervened and tried to stop bullying at some point in your lives. I mean, I maybe it's a guess from my part, but just seeing your demeanor and how really you articulate this, have you had experiences trying to prevent the bullying of others?
Yes.
Yeah, I have.
Can you talk to us about that and how that influenced your own acting in this?
Well, my friend, they're a nice person, but like sometimes they could tend to be a little like aggressive in the way they talk and be a little mean when they feel like somebody says something stupid. So one time she was being rude to another student, and I talked like against her. I was like, Lauren, why? Like, I mean, I was like, why are you talking to her like that? You shouldn't be talking to her like that at all. And then we just kind of got in a fight, and we didn't talk. But then we were friends again. But she's like a good person, but she goes through some stuff too, so I can understand.
So yeah.
You're muted, Jonathan. And then Tanya just came on in.
Okay, I'm sorry, but you are that's great because you are literally talking about talking to your own friends, right? And how you need to sometimes have your friends not bully. That's incredible. And young women, I think that you when I said have you ever intervened in bullying, you just lit up and jumped up. I know you have a little story there as well.
So there was these mean girls in my school, and they walked around and was just going to people bullying them, and it was like why? That was my question in my brain, like why? I didn't say it out loud, but I'm like why? Like what is the point for that? What is you bullying somebody, making them want to, and you don't know what they can do, making them want to maybe kill themselves, take drugs, and most of these stuff that I learned, and they just went around bullying people, and I didn't really like that. And I went to the teachers, and they were like, they were gonna handle it, and they did. And the child got suspended for doing all this bad stuff to the children in my class. And I didn't really feel bad because, well, I felt bad and I didn't feel bad because it's like you're you're bullying somebody, so you have to get the consequences of that. And then it's also like maybe you're going through something at home, like I said before, you're maybe going through something at home making you want to do this, but don't put it on other people. So yeah.
You're muted,
I
Jonathan.
think the last thing you talked about is sometimes bullies are going through things themselves. Is really an important issue and something to talk about, right? Like sometimes it's the bully that often instead of just suspension, probably needs to have a conversation about what's going on in their own lives that can help them. Because often, hurt people, right? People who've been inflicted, there's a reason why that mean girl was a mean girl. Well, often mean girls are the product of a lot of mean people being mean to them. And the way in which they react to it, right, may be indicative of needing maybe counselor, conversation, right, someone to intervene to help them with the pain that they have. I'm not going to say that this play deals with that specific thing, but it is anti-bullying. Please, Tania Simone, excuse me, excuse my cough.
Oh, you're fine. Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
So tell us
Thank
about this
you for
play.
having me. Yes, so I play the student that has always been bullied, but also have other issues going on with myself. And so I use other things to kind of help cope with the stress and cope with just the many things that, of course, all of our middle school and high school students go through, which is that peer pressure, being pressured into being in a group, in a clique, being someone that they're not. So I am that character that kind of goes through that and kind of snaps um, when I am not able to kind of cope with the things that are happening. Yep.
Okay.
And as a school teacher, I'm a school teacher. So as a school teacher, this resonates with me as well because I actually have a girls group that I have because they were going through issues with bullying and acceptance and respect as well with each other. And as we know, 90% of communication is usually our body language, right? It's things that we don't say. And honestly, the issues that they faced and were going through when we actually unpacked it and sat and talked about things and told about it, it was mostly just things that they assumed. Oh,
Like
this person is looking at me like this, so I'm assuming this, right? This person is I think they're talking about me because they got quiet when I walked over to the conversation. Um, so just like little things like that. So I definitely try to encourage them and help to teach them how to advocate for themselves in the right way, in the appropriate way. And also conflict resolution. I think that's very important for our kids. They're usually afraid to step to right or have that discourse, right, that conversation with someone they are having issues with. Um, And so it's important to kind of give our kids those tools that they need to be successful to navigate those type of conversations, and also being confident at the same time.
Okay.
Tanya, what's now? You saying you're teaching there? Where are you teaching?
I teach at Mastery in Camden, New Jersey.
Wow, y'all covering some territory.
Yes.
We're having a good conversation with Play and Roselle and a teacher from Camden. We covered some territory. Wow.
I live in Newark, born and raised.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, but Camden is another one of our tough towns. So I mean, it's just it means something. These places and spaces we come from definitely mean something. Let me ask this. So we got somebody else coming on. I hope she can get on too. Looks Amira Jabber. I hope she can get on.
Just put them on so that they can jump on. But you were saying, Zaid?
No, I just want to share as somebody who came to acting very late. I wish I had come to it when I was much younger, right? Because it's a powerful training tool. One, for character and leadership development. Two, in the training of personal character, because you actually can really learn what this whole thing called empathy is if you're a good, well-trained actor, right? Okay. Second is that it's an incredible art form. It's a very enormous, empowering and uplifting art form if you really, develop some command for it. So I'm saying that particularly, from all of you on down, right? You all are young enough to really consider a further dive into the craft, because the craft really can be something rewarding, short term and the long run. Whether you become famous or not, it can really be rewarding. Here's the question though. But where does the play come from? Who wrote it? Has it been printed yet? And if it hasn't, I would strongly encourage it to get printed in some kind of published form, because then it can take on a life of its own, right, with other actors, in other places.
Absolutely.
Well, the writer is Pastor Michael Carr. That's the writer. And then we have our directors, Deacon Hickman and Lisa. And they are supporting us as well.
They're supposed to be coming on too, right, Jonathan?
Yes. Mm-hmm. It is printed for us as actors.
Okay.
However, I'm sure the push is definitely for it to be published, for it to be used in the future for other schools or just even other theater companies and production companies to bring these characters to life in the way that they see them. So yeah.
Merrick and Clarenda are muted. Y'all are muted. We're trying to hear you. We want to hear you.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
There you go. Go ahead.
Okay. Bullying is not just with our youth. Okay. Bullying is something that happens with adults also. It happens with politicians, with trying to stretch their power against the people. It happens with lawmakers. It happens with anyone in power. So this play is just it's going to take a whole new perspective on what bullying is really doing to this world.
And in the play also, it also states that how teachers and adults also have to be accounted, take account for when they see something. If they see something going on, if you see a child sitting over in a corner sad, or if you see this one child with no one ever to talk to, they have to also say something. Like they say in a train station, when you see something, say something. If you notice something is going on with this child, it could be something at their home that we don't know about. And just like you stated before about bullies usually have problems within their own mental state or in their own background, their home background, and they bring it to the school and they take it out on other people.
Or they bring it to the work, or they can even bring it to the church.
Right. They can bring it
they
wherever.
can bring it to the playground. They
can
bring it wherever, because it's something that's infested in you that makes you feel like you have to constantly be pushing people away and making people
pushing them around.
Yes, and making them feel like you're so much when it's not necessary.
And it takes a toll
Yeah.
on people. And it's hard. I even
Respect
remember
and acceptance.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger and I had to walk up this hill and the girls was just standing. And I was new to the school, and every day I had to walk up that hill, and I dreaded walking up. They didn't bother me, but just them in a group, and nobody would say nothing, and I know they was laughing or this and that. It still made me feel uncomfortable. You know, you didn't know that.
Tell me that. See, you gotta tell. You gotta talk about.
Yeah, I was
stuff
uncomfortable.
Like that.
I was like, God, I gotta walk up this
Yeah,
hill.
had to
These
walk
girls
around the
gonna be
mean
right
girls.
here.
Huh?
Yeah. And but
Yeah.
you know what's crazy? Now that I'm an adult, they love me. Facebook, when we graduated, you know what I mean? It just turned into a whole different thing. But the play gears to that, and it helps our youth. And we're hoping to even go to different schools. We're hoping it gets out and we'll be able to go and do this play at other churches, at other schools. And then the director and the Pastor Carr can, you know, move it into, as you said, having it written because it affects our children. And look, my mother didn't know.
Jonathan.
Right.
Jonathan.
I mean, just to
Jonathan.
piggyback on that, as an educator, I hope that it opens doors and also mindsets for teachers that feel like their day is too busy to have
You gotta
conversations and check
listen,
in with our
right?
kids.
You
We
got to
have
listen.
to connect with our kids and listen.
Yes, listen.
I am that all around teacher, and I take full pride in doing that. In building up the whole child. So I'm not just focused on, oh, I teach drama class. I actually care about their other academics as well. And I also care about what's going on with them mentally and emotionally. And so, you know, again, checking in, and I am that teacher. I will, if I see something, I will say something that includes the adults. So, hey,
Right on.
we didn't have a conversation with that kid. We
Right.
might need to check in. Let's check in together. I want to
Well,
help you.
I know
help
we
them.
want to bring
Pastor Lewis.
Amira in, right?
Yeah.
But Shahadah said something I don't want to get lost in this conversation, because when a fifth grader raises the question of suicide, we need to hear it, right? I heard you, Shahadah. All right, I heard you, right? I mean, and you know, a generation ago, we were a community that said that Black folks don't do that, right? You can't say that no more, right? I mean, suicide is real, and it's between the ages, and it's getting younger in our community
All
so
the time.
in terms of the importance of this conversation and what can be underneath it that we need to lift up, I just wanted to re-emphasize it. And we got some new folks in the conversation. Let's bring them up.
But we also want to talk to. I know Marquise, Pastor Lewis wanted to say some things.
I just wanted to say, Jonathan, Pastor Carr couldn't be here tonight, but he wanted the cast to be here to promote this show. And I just wanted to say the reason why I believe that this play is very important is because of the time that we're in. The time that we're in when we see politics at its best, when we have a man who bullied his way to the White House and still trying to bully his way back to the White House, that we need to shine the light on the fact that bullying is something that we really need to tackle and that we need to deal with in politics, in our schools, in our cities, in our churches. And that's why Pastor Carr is very instrumental on trying to make sure that he spread this message and that we get it in every school and to every city, and even get it on TV so people can see that, you know, we need to start listening to our children because their blood is on our hands if we don't listen to them.
I agree. We also need to raise awareness with
Marcus, you got the bomb with the Trump. Yeah, you did. Right. I actually wanted to write a children's book about his behind on that very topic. I just never had the time. I appreciate you lifting that up, little brother, because that's real stuff. And that's how big this conversation needs to be. It's not kids,
it's
right?
Not just children.
It's
all ages.
Right. It's dangerous at any age. Right. But when power is really involved, you can really get hurt.
Yeah, I deal with it right now in education as an educator.
Can you?
I deal with it right now. right
And you're
now.
talking about as a
Yeah,
teacher,
Amira.
you deal with it.
As a teacher, yes, I deal with it right now with the politics with that. Yes.
As
Yes.
in, like, there are adults who bully other adults.
Oh yes.
Yes,
Oh
yes,
yes.
and with the politics, you know, you have certain administrators, right, who literally walk around as if they are politicians, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as a principal, you should be a people person, right? You should have that kind of presence around, right? Everybody should know who you are, and you should be in every classroom, and you should know every kid, right? At least know two things about every kid. Unfortunately, my principal is not that person. And so, you know, she kind of just waves around her title
Mm-hmm.
when it's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to kind of like, oh yeah, let me go in and shine light on this and let you know who I am, and then just kind of disappear after that. And it's like, okay, we're worried about data, but this kid didn't eat last night. Make that make sense.
Right.
Right. That's
You know,
right.
so
Say that, teacher woman. Say that. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yeah.
we have on Elijah Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
In the
brother
mirror,
Elijah.
up in the mirror.
Hi, Elijah.
Hey,
How you
Elijah.
guys doing?
Okay.
And are you the I know we're going to have the director on soon. Is the director here?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So we have more actors. So Elijah Fields, talk to us.
So I play Mr. Rogers. And I'm
Black
like
Mr. Rogers. Right on.
yeah. So like one of the things I wanted to talk about was I think it's important to realize it's all about community. And people need to realize that we can't go through this alone. We always need somebody to be there for us no matter what we're going through. I went to school at Liberty University, and when you guys were talking about Trump, he came to our school. And I remember two of my roommates told me I had no right to say Obama was a good president. And I realized in that moment, I was like, okay, like, how can you tell me I had no right? You know? And I just realized that we live in a world where people believe that it's okay to bully other people. And I just want people to realize that we could live in a world where we could stand together.
Yes.
And it's so much powerful to stand together. And I just want to say this to any kids or any adults. If you see anybody that's being bullied or that's going through anything, sit with them, talk with them, just say hello. How are you doing? How was your day? Because that could go a long way and that could change somebody else's life. And I've been through like situations where I was bullied, and I had like, you know, people that spoke into my life and that been in my life. And every day I have a cousin that just checks on me and say, hey cuz, I love you. How you doing? And that makes my day better. And I just want people to realize that no matter what you're going through, God is always there with you, and He's there every step of the way. And there's people that love you. And so if you're going through anything, like, you know, just say something, because there are people that actually really care about your heart and about who you are.
That's what good theater is supposed to do. Particularly good drama.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
The director just came on.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Healer. How's my cast doing?
All right. Hi.
Hey.
The earthquake has gotten me shook.
Yes.
Something.
You got a
And
great cast here.
Yes, I do. They're phenomenal, actually. And I'm so excited because this cast for this particular show has gone above and beyond what our previous cast has gone. And we're just excited about, you know, what we're going to present. It is a real life message. It's one that we need in today's society. And this cast, again, is bringing it home. You know, so much to say that it's not only a tear jerker that I love as a director, but it's definitely it's phenomenal. I can't say enough about how much this message means to the community, and what Pastor Carr has done in even writing it is just beyond our expectations of how it's being received. And we've made some changes from our last time we did this to incorporate some new things that came to our attention about suicide and about taking pills and all these things that are relevant in today's society and what kids are struggling with. As they say, the struggle is real, and
Yeah.
we want to make
The
sure
struggle
that
is real.
yes, we want to make sure that the message is conveyed in such a way that it's authentic. From a directorial standpoint, I always believe in authenticity and that it's real life. I don't like actors. We don't have any actors. We have characters in a script. Each person takes on that role and they become one with it so much where it's a challenge, sometimes from real life. And that's what acting should be. When you look at all the great actors, they embody that. And sometimes we look at them and say, wow, that's them.
That's them.
Director Hickman, tell us about your background. What brought you to the craft?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he heard me.
Bring
I hope he heard me.
home
He was rolling.
to the stage. And I think we're going
Oh,
to
we
do a
actually couldn't
phenomenal
hear the first parts of your response.
Great club.
Yeah, you broke way up. That was a great question,
I know
Zay.
it was a whole lot, but yeah.
So, Director Hickman, can you repeat that?
Yes. Can I
He
repeat
said,
everything?
"What's your
just said?
background and what brought you to
What brought you to the craft?"
My background, well, I've been directing for the last, I would say 15 years with our producer and writer, Michael Carr. We've done everything from the Apollo to a stage in the Queen City of Plainfield, so.
Oh, I'm from Plainfield. Oh my God.
Yes, we brought the Queen City with the Herd, the Herd. It was William Hurd, I believe was his first name. Gave us an opportunity to put on several productions at his location on Front Street there in Plainfield, and so we were able to get our feet wet and bring really good productions to that. So from there, we've just launched and tried to do everything. COVID hindered us a little bit because we weren't able to bring things. But since COVID ended, per se, because there's still people with it, we've been able to now get started again with bringing these things. And City of Hope in Newark has been one of our launching boards from last year that we were able to do. We were able to do That's Not Kool at Arts High in Newark. So we're
Okay,
trying
so
to get our
this is
people
not his first run. Okay. All right.
Oh no, man! I've been doing this.
Okay.
Listen, I'm an old head.
Okay.
I know I look young, but
We can't see you.
oh darn!
Tania Nicole has young Queen Tania Nicole has got to be your manager because she's definitely pumping it up online, right? With where you can go to get the tickets.
Yes.
And Amira has been trying to get on. Amira, we'd love to have you on. I know you were trying to get in. Is Amira one of the actors? Was she in the cast? Yeah, she was trying to get on. I don't know.
Yes.
I think she was having a connection issue, but she has been feeding the chat too with the hashtag and all of that. We see you, daughter. We see you. Now let me ask you this. Now this play clearly appears to have some church roots, right? How much?
Yes.
How much is the music driving the play, or is it more drama driven and less music driven?
This is more drama driven. This is more drama driven. We're gonna have undertones of music, but it's not as heavy as we usually do, like with the City of Hope that we've done, or didn't know my own strength, or some of the other productions, because we think that the message is so powerful that we don't necessarily need the music, but it's an undertone just to keep things moving. but it's not as heavily in the song category, if you will, as some of our other productions are.
Now we have a ritual because we wind the segment down, and I'm really excited about it now. And I'm actually traveling personally, and we'll miss it. But this production really has legs, so I'm looking forward to its continued movement and growth. But as we wind the segment down, this is a hip hop talk show. You might not know, looking at all the great that I got, right? Oh, good to see you. Good to see you, Director Hickman.
There you
Good to
go.
see you. All right. Okay. Let me ask each of you this question, right? In terms of music, right? And you can include the gospel in this too, right? Because there's a whole lot of healthy stuff that's happening in gospel. Somebody just lifted up D1, a gospel rapper from New Orleans, right? So who are you listening to right now to get yourself right? Or who is your favorite hip hop artist or singer or group that you like overall? And that's for everybody. Let's start with Shahadah and Mason, and then go on around the screen.
So mine right now is Beyonce.
Beyonce before or after country Beyonce?
Before.
Okay. Mason, what say you, son?
Ice Spice.
Okay.
Ice Spice. I'm cracking up.
I'm just a bra.
My grown folks, ladies, what say you?
What you want, Mom? I'll go with CeCe Winans and Anthony Brown.
All right.
I know that's right, Mama. Yeah,
Right? Yeah. For me, it actually depends on what mood I'm in. I might want to hear Tupac. I might want to hear Alicia Keys. I might want to hear Beyonce.
Okay.
I might want to hear what my mom said. It depends on how I'm feeling that day. I might be up like wanting to be like this, and sometimes I might need to be, a little bit level. At this, as you get older, it varies for me. Honestly.
Well, I'm part of the Pac because he's our most famous cover, the Black Panther Party. I got roots in the Black Panther Party. Director Hickman, I used to 750 East Front Street. I used to live in front of the place. It's a long time ago. Long time ago, decades ago. Teacher woman Tania Simone, who you rocking to?
I'm gonna say I'm the same as my sis over here. It's a mood thing for me. I love music, so it just depends on the mood. I can say when I am getting myself in the zone, if it's gospel, definitely I'm gonna hit up some Tasha Cobbs, some Kirk Franklin. I'm gonna go ahead and swing that with a little Mary Mary. If I'm feeling a little gangster, I might be up with some, I might hit the Tupac, Lil Wayne, Lil Jay-Z, get me started, Lil Jeezy on the beat, if I'm getting some trap music in there, yeah.
That's right, sis.
And then Anita Baker, Whitney, if I'm over here trying to sing,
There you go.
Definitely gotta go old school.
Yes, always.
That's right.
Wow, you covered the gamut, and it's all good. It's all good. Marcus, I'm gonna save you for last because you've been here before. We got one of the new folks in here. Elijah, what say you?
I love listening to like Bethel music or like Maverick City, or I love listening to like classics like Roy Ayers. I think I'm saying that right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know him.
Earth, Wind, and Fire, Gap Band.
Yes.
My dad listened to a lot of like the 70s and 60s songs, so
Funk
I love.
Technically, is driving the modern face of gospel music.
Thank you.
Ain't no doubt about it. You from the bass on up. That's funkin' for the Lord.
Yeah.
That's right.
Funky for the Lord.
I'm from Plainfield, the home of the P-Funk.
Yep.
All right.
We can't forget about house music though either, right? We can't forget about club music.
Yeah.
We can't forget about house music.
DJ K Slay.
Yes, we can't forget about house music.
Director Hickman, what
Throw
say
on a
you?
little "You Are My Friend," a little Kanileah
Absolutely.
in the mix,
Yes.
a
Yes.
little "You Are My Friend," a little that's house music is
Ain't
where
no
it's
mountain
at.
high. Yeah.
You know,
Follow me.
gospel
Yeah.
house
Follow
music.
me.
Oh yeah, without a surprise. Chicago and Jersey and music is like the world.
The capitals. That's right. That's
Marcus,
right.
take us home. What's your last? What's your what you listening to now?
Well, you know, when it's not gospel, I
When
gotta
it's
throw
not
on. When it's not gospel, I gotta throw me on a little Biggie. Gotta throw me
okay.
on a little Meat Mills. You know,
Yeah.
I gotta. Yeah, I gotta feel it. Then when I want to calm down a little bit, throw me a little Miles Davis, little
Right.
Sam
Right.
Cooke,
Jazz.
Isley Brothers. You know, gotta set the mood
Boy,
right.
you done
That's
growed
right.
up
Oh,
for
you
real. I
yeah,
remember
you
you
slowed it
talking
down
like
for the
that.
lovers in the house. Yes.
Director Hickman, I'm gonna give you the
Yes.
last word. Tell everybody where and when the play is. Right, Todd Nichols has been pumping out the website feverishly on online. We love that. But you tell everybody very quickly when and where the play is, so folks can get down and we gotta get ready for our next segment. It was great having y'all on. Good luck.
Thank
with
you
it.
so
Thank
much. It was a
you
pleasure.
so much.
Yes.
Yes, it was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Hickman,
thank you so much for taking it. Yeah, I think because my connection was getting bad, but we're going to be at Chestnut Street at the Chestnut Street Community Church in Roselle on next Friday and Saturday. Our Friday
Yes.
shows at 7,
mm-hmm.
and then our Saturday shows at 1. So we're excited to be in Roselle, which we've done one of our productions there before. It's a I like to call it's an intimate location where everybody, and it's going to be interactive.
I know
So we
exactly where
have
it's
our
at.
actors doing some things. So it's going to
Mhm.
be an interactive thing. We shout out Pastor Snow and all of his staff that's given us this opportunity
Thank
to
you.
bring this production on, and they are a community-based church, so we're excited that we could be back in Roselle to bring forth this, and we're probably going to have, God willing, many more productions there as we did in the past. So we're looking forward to everyone that can come out and just celebrate with us. I tell the actors and our cast that this is fun. This is what we
Right.
signed up to do. So we should be enjoying ourselves and enjoying the message that that we are conveying to everyone that comes in. So we're excited. We're looking forward to it, and hopefully everyone can come out.
That's been beautiful. It's been beautiful having you all. Keep us up to date as the play progresses, as the play travels. Right.
Yes.
You have an open mic here at All Politics Are Local. We were always lifting up
Oh wow.
good that's in the hood. Right. And we're quite proud of who and what we see here. Right. So good luck with that. Right. Stay in touch. Right.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
again.
All right. All right. Sweet. Bye,
All
everyone.
right,
Bye.
Cass, we'll see you bright and early in the morning.
Bright
Yes,
and early in the
bright and
morning.
early in the
Yes.
morning.
Yes. Cool. All right. Thank you. All
All
right.
right. Good night,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Great segment. And our own Congressman Donald Payne Jr. should be joining us momentarily. That was a really rich segment. Really enjoyed that. And it's ironic that that somebody had lifted up a gospel-based rapper, right?
Yeah.
The conversation earlier, so it would have been a wonderful segue if we'd had them together.
You know, I was definitely moved by them kids, though, man. You know what I mean?
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
I thought they were excellent, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, they articulated so well for fifth graders, man. You know what I mean? Were able to explain the play and and really ID what bullying is,
Yeah.
and that's but that's a real issue, man, in our community. And that's something that I think that this play coming about is really important, because I think that's a way to really talk about it. That's a way to really get it in front of people, is to do it in an art form.
The question I didn't get to ask, right? And it's neither here nor there that I didn't get to ask it. I was very taken with Shahadah. This is a fifth grader talking about suicide, right? That blew me away, right? Because that's just real stuff. I've lost folks to suicide, right? But there's one of the most popular shows in television right now is Abbott Elementary, right? That's really more about the teachers and their folly, and hardly at all about the kids, right? There's a need for that, a show that's willing to have those kind of conversations, right? That centers what the kids are actually going through. Right? Rhino just right on Rhino, right? The kids are the best part always, right? Deshaun got a graphic of Khaled, Miss Khaled. But that's just. Can you remember the show Room 222?
I do. Yeah, I remember that Room 222. Yeah,
and that was like a one of a kind show. We have I don't remember any other shows that had that kind of stuff, right? That these kids are raising in this particular play, right? That we used to see in that show, right? And that was Cali based, movement was hot, right? All those racial questions and whatnot, gender questions, all of that was in there, right? And how people dealing with that, right? It's 222, Dashawn, not 122. But yeah, there's so much, and this is the Amira in me coming out, right? But we have so many stories to tell that are not just that not just speak to who we are and our ability creatively, but it's also a part of our development in terms of our humanity and declaring that to the world, particularly in defiance and resistance to our oppressors. Art is liberating.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why this month being poetry month, why we want to begin to lift that up this whole month, because I think that particularly when you talk about the kind of art that was poetry and art that was coming out of Newark, and you think about what Marcus was talking about with the bronze shields, it was revolutionary, right? And particularly the kind of poetry that Amiri was talking about. You know what I mean? And what he was writing back then, and then all of those poets who were coming through, like Sonia Sanchez and all of them back in the day, that level of art, being able to put that out there. So these young people, and again, I think that level of encouragement you were giving them about being able to go into this field of acting and to be able to talk about a very real issue from an acting perspective is a whole new way of introducing them, right, to a whole nother level of the arts, right? And being able to use that kind of talent, because think about it, Zahid, and you were asking the questions about who's writing it, who's printing it, all of those are skills, right? Somebody to sit down and write those parts, right? The right, what the whole dialogue is going to be about, because you painting a picture, right? And then those young people who are the characters who are playing those parts, I mean, it's opening up a whole new world for them. So I think that I mean, it was an incredible segment. And it was really, really good hearing from those young people. And I agree with with Rhino, hearing from those young people was really the best part, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That was really, and they're very young too. I mean,
good
years old, really was really taken with them.
And I also thought that what Marquise said was right on point. Right, we've got a guy who's trying to bully himself back into the White House.
That was the mic dropper.
I've never heard anybody put it that way, but that's right. And I think that is what should be on T-shirts, right? That's what somebody should be promoting right now. This guy is bullying, half of the country, because he's constantly saying, what's going to happen if you don't elect me? Here's what's going to happen to the country if you don't elect me, right? I mean, I've never heard anybody say that kind of stuff, right?
And that's another way to communicate the reality of it without the baggage that comes with advanced political language like fascism.
Right.
It's fascism. Ain't no doubt about that, right? But most of you talk to the average person about what fascism is, they ain't got a clue, right?
Right.
So, but most folks do know what a bully looks like,
right?
Absolutely, what bullies do and what that could mean in a space like that, right? People ain't, you know, that's oh man, I wish I had taken the time. I just didn't have time, right?
Yeah.
But I wish I had time to really. I really did want to do a children's book looking at Trump, a political children's book. It's Trump as a bully, because it's exactly he was right on point. That I was definitely feeling that.
Right. That's it. That I'm telling you, Zaid, if somebody were to take that and really put that in a campaign, right? I think that would really cause people to take a look at it differently, because you know, every time he opens his mouth, everything he's saying, he's bullying people, right? You know, I mean, you know, he's telling people, you know, what's happening in America, what's going to happen to it. Like somehow this guy is the only answer, right, to giving white people back the control of the country, and he has no idea, he has no clue about how to run America, right? I mean, and it's amazing to me that
you know, he's got a clue, but that clue is loaded, is fraught with danger.
Yeah, but it's not, but there it is. There's the fascism that we're talking about, right? We're not talking about people who are, you know, going to be, you know, plugged into what's really happening in this country. And again, we've got to constantly be reminded, Zaid, that half of this country voted for this man, right? I mean, that's what's dangerous, right?
Really dangerous.
Half of this country.
That's right. I remember when I woke up. I mean, most of, you know, a lot of years ago, and then here's the brother that wrote the play. We see you, Brother Carr, right? We see you, Pastor Carr, right? You know, most of us just assumed that Hillary was going to win that election, you know, for all of her baggage, right? And I remember, I said, you know, I was talking to a demo, Larry Hamm, everybody, right? And early in the morning, he Trump won, man. I said, what?
Right.
Oh, he won. I said,
this was in 20
when he won the first time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know, nobody, you know, most of them didn't believe that on a national scale, as crazy as he is, right? That that many people were going to actually vote for him. But they did.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. So it's, you know, we need to be real clear about that. And then of course, Biden is beholden to a sinkhole of genocide that may blow the White House and give this joke another round to do some more damage, right?
Yeah. That's the problem, right? That's one of the things I was hoping we can get into with the congressman a little bit, because that is a real problem. You know, I mean, the fact is that, you know, I mean, I heard somebody say that young people just doesn't really care about what's going on in the country right now, right? I mean, I'm hearing that, you know. I'm hearing that young people are just not plugged in. And remember, that's how he won last time, Zaid.
Well, I'm hearing something different. Right? I'm hearing two things. Remember, young folks beat him. Young folks came out and it was keyed in beating him the last time.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They came out and they came out because their mothers and grandmothers were telling them to come out and vote. Right. This time around, they just don't seem to have any real interest.
Oh, there's an interest, but the interest is taking a turn to the left.
That's right.
To the left of Biden, you know?
Support Biden, right? Because and that is because of his stance with Netanyahu, right? His support for, I mean, Zaid, I heard today, what did they say? I want to tell you this number. I want to get it right, because I heard that it was just I don't know if you heard this, Zaid, but someone told me today that there were 13 children killed in Gaza, 13,000 children.
Yeah, yeah, a third of the people killed in Gaza are children, and the
was like,
majority is women.
I mean, and so my point is, how do you make that make sense? How do you make it make sense?
By demonizing the targets, right? The U.S. media order, the U.S. political order, by virtue of creating the imperialistic tool that Israel was put there to be as a military surrogate for the Middle East and Northern Africa, just like South Africa was formerly that under apartheid for the southern part of the African continent, right? That is overriding the entire world, telling them y'all out of your damn minds doing this stuff, you wrong as hell, and we are not going to support that.
Right.
It's a horrible look for this particular moment in humanity, and then these Democrats got their heads sunk in the sand. That's going to sink them.
Yeah, and everybody's talking about what, the most loyal part of the party are Black folks, and everybody's putting the weight on us again, right? To look the other way, right? Like look the other way. Don't.
And young Black folks ain't feeling it.
No.
Young Latinx folks ain't feeling it, right? Young progressive white folks ain't feeling it, right? And certainly young folks who are of Arab or Islamic or Middle Eastern background definitely ain't feeling it. And the thing that needs to be appreciated is that they all too have emerged as blocks of voting blocks on their own terms, that need to be taken seriously now. And unfortunately, they're not. But the movement in the streets is still profound, and it is profoundly international. Right? We just yesterday was Dr. King's anniversary of his assassination. We had a very multiracial, intergenerational march, and had a lot of young folks there. Right? For the first time in a long time, the People's Organization for Progress had a march where the majority of the folks in that march were under 40 years old, and the majority of those folks under 40 were under 30.
Wow.
So the question is, so they are the X factor,
right, in
this election. So it's right now, by saying they're doing that voting. I'm not using the right term, but where they're voting in the Democratic primaries, but not voting for Biden.
Right.
They have a term for it, and I just the term is mistaken. Right, as a protest to try and get them to turn their behinds around. Biden is giving lip service to the human rights violations, but he just shipped over another something $1 billion straight to him without any interruption.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right.
It's really a bad look.
And that's the question: is there someone around Biden who has his ear that can say, "Man, you got like 7 months on this thing, man. You got what you gonna do, right?"
There's another X factor that's emerging too, right? And is that we're starting to see in Israel itself the beginning of protests against Netanyahu's government.
Yeah, that's true.
Netanyahu was being overbroad with the notion of trying to eliminate, Palestinian people when there can be a negotiation, because there have been negotiations, and some people have been released when the negotiations were taking place. Right. So there's that, and then there's not a radical sentiment, that's in the streets protesting Netanyahu, but it is more of a democratic and more of a level-headed sense. So contradictions in the end work for the people.
Right.
Those contradictions sharpen, and the principle, some democratic principle ultimately prevails. And what if the U.S. is not willing to tame their tiger? Maybe the Israeli people will tame them themselves in their own interest. Because the other thing that's particularly dangerous is, in addition to the genocide, is that they're popping off in other areas too.
Right.
Which can actually trigger, other military excursions.
Yeah.
They're
But
messing with it. They're messing with Syria. They're messing with, they're messing with Lebanon, right?
Right. That's right.
I mean,
Right.
for all of their might militarily, right?
Right.
Come on now.
Right.
You gonna fight the world by yourself? Stop.
Right. That Zaid, that was always an issue. You know what I mean? That was always an issue with other things jumping off and other things going on, and and other things are happening in the world. I mean, like someone just said about what's going on Cuba, right? We're not really talking about that because America is busy supporting Palestine and
Supporting Israel, yeah.
Right. I mean, this is what's happening, right?
Mhm.
But you've got a major election that's coming up, and I'm telling you, that's unfortunately, Brother Mtume isn't here. But the first time around, Brother Mtume told us that, right? He was like, yo, don't sleep on Trump. This man could win. He's speaking to a particular segment of this country, right? Who look at what's going on, and what they're saying is that they don't want their money to be sent into these war zones. They want their money to be spent in their communities, to be spent with their people. And so therefore, they're going to, because this is all, especially that bullshit Trump was talking about, building a border wall that never happened, right? So what they see is they see people coming into the country. And so for them, remember, Zaid, they are afraid that the country is becoming more blacker and browner.
Right. That's right.
Right.
Fear the Black Planet, baby. That's right.
And so that's a real fear for these people. And so that's who he's talking to, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then on at the same time, remember, optics is everything, right? Because young people ain't really reading; they just watching this guy, right? Like, what is he doing, man? Yo, they ain't read nothing. So someone needs to say, stop giving lip service, man. And you know what happened, and this, you've already experienced this. Anybody who puts up any level of real support for Gaza or Palestine, what happens? They get cut off.
Oh yeah, that's real stuff.
Right? They cut you off on Twitter. They cut you off.
There's somebody named it yesterday. I can't think of the word of it. Right? Because because one of the profound things that's happening here in this country and in the international protests are the Jewish voices, right? Mm-hmm. that are for peace. Jewish force for peace is a force, right? And we need to have some of those voices on too. I know some very strong voices that are in that conversation, like my comrade Tova Fry, I'm very proud of, right? Families were Holocaust survivors, but they're not talking this crazy stuff that these folks are doing. Right. They are in the streets opposing this, opposing Zionism.
Yeah.
Right. Zionism is not a religion.
That's right.
It's a political ideology.
That's right.
And that's a whole nother conversation that needs to be appreciated too. And I'm proud of what I'm seeing in some of those forces, that the folks are honoring the true values of service, right? That really are at the foundation of Jewish culture, as they would have their real culture. Those again, contradictions work for the people in the long run. And that's a healthy contradiction that we hope continues to really do its thing. Laura Whitehorn, former political prisoner, right? Tiny little thing, right? It's a ferocious force in the underground that was multiracial once upon a time. Folks forget that the folks that liberated Assata was a multiracial force.
Right.
The Underground Railroad from Harriet's day was a multiracial force. Right? Now, black folks were taking the shocks and were the foot soldiers, but moving through those swamps and those communities and whatnot, that was multiracial stuff.
Right.
And if you were confronted supporting, the fugitives, your behind definitely needed to be armed. So there's those that tendency has got to figure out how to gel in a way that prevents this country from going to fascism under a re-emerging Trump, and it's and that's going to be a difficult conversation. Reminds us a lot of '68, right? King, gets killed in '68. 68. Bobby Kennedy was an insurgent candidate, right? Because Lyndon Johnson just was beat up, knew he wasn't going to win, right? But Bobby Kennedy was an insurgent on the rise, and they popped him off.
Right.
Goes to Chicago, gangster police under Daley beating the hell out of everybody. Bobby Seale almost, the Ohio, all of that, right? And the right wing under Nixon just rode right in and took the country straight to the right. And we've been battling with that craziness ever since in some form of fashion under them, right? And there's nobody, has emerged in the ranks of the so-called Democrats, right? To say, Joe, you can sit down. We got this now. Nobody like that, right? So it's just them two. Two old heads who ain't got their stuff together, who just done stuck around too goddamn long for this country, for all of the Americans.
Right. Yeah. And Zaid, I think that the other piece to that is that I was thinking about those 7 peace workers that got killed, right? And I'm sure you've heard this too. I've heard folks say that the president of the United States, right, could be sitting in the White House and could throw a dart, right? And a dart could kill any leader anywhere in the world. That's the level of technology, the precision of the technology. And that is the same kind of weaponry that America gives to Israel. So how do you make that kind of mistake?
They're using it. They're using it well-intentioned. Andres, that's the chef Jose Andres, it was his project, the World Food Channel, something like that, right? Was angry not just because it happened, because the way it happened, it clearly revealed that it was not a mistake. It was not a mistake. They used those drones. They were going out of their way to communicate with Israeli defense forces.
Yeah.
I made sure that they were properly identified as humanitarian folks. We're not combatants. We're not Hamas. We ain't even Palestinian. We're just trying to give some people some food because we got a famine that's been getting ready to blow up, right? And those drones deliberately, one right after took those 3 cars right out. They even escaped from the first one, went to the second one and the third one. By the time they got the third, they wiped them all out.
Right.
Wiped them all out.
Right.
That was deliberate, right? But the thing is, and I'm hoping that can be a tipping point because, they have been wiping out journalists. They have been wiping out other humanitarian folks. They've been wiping out doctors and nurses. They destroyed several hospitals.
Right.
But those folks were overwhelmingly Palestinians, so their lives, in the language of our BLM kids, didn't matter.
Right.
But now that we're seeing, and this is, we saw this in 1964, back when we had Freedom Summer, when we tried when the movement brought more white folks into the South, hoping to create a buffer of the violence against black folks. Right. No, them crazy ass crackers killed them young white kids coming. Y'all gonna come down here and tell us what to do? Right. How you like swimming in this here Mississippi River after we blow your brains out? And that's right. But it took that.
Right.
Unfortunately, other lives mattering more to get other lives to do more to make everybody's lives matter.
Right. But that is what we are, Zaid. I think that at this very moment, we've got somebody like Netanyahu who really wants to kill everyone, right? He's not interested in saying, well, because he's not separating the folks who are innocent folks, right, from who he's calling Hamas, right? He wants to kill indiscriminately, right? And he wants to wipe everybody out.
They want to make it. If whoever doesn't get killed, they want to make things so inhabitable that the only solution then is to clear it,
Yeah.
right, in
Yeah.
total apartheid fashion, and they're already doing it, right,
Right.
and then load it up with settlers, right, take that port, start drilling for that oil,
Yeah.
and boom, you got in Israel, the state in Israel, the expanded super state,
Yeah.
right? They're
Yeah.
trying to push their own notion of manifest destiny.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It is. Oh man, it's
Yeah.
just textbook stuff.
And we're talking about someone who doesn't care, right? Netanyahu is clear, right? He got one objective, and that objective is to wipe out
as many as he can.
right. Well, I mean, I've heard Larry say he's going for a total genocide. Right?
Yes. Yes.
And he doesn't care what that price is, and he doesn't care who it is. And I think that was evident with him taking out those peace workers who were just there to provide food. And like you just said, Zaid, we're talking about people who were communicating with the military every step of the way. So it wasn't like they didn't know, right? We're talking to your leaders. They're talking to us. They know what we're driving. We got our logo on top of the car. You can't make a mistake with that. But here's the thing that really got me, Zaid. I don't know if you saw my text, but the thing that really got me is that this guy knew about this 3 weeks in advance.
Oh, yeah.
He had intel, man.
Oh yeah.
He was fully aware of what was going to happen on October 7th.
Oh, yeah.
And they said he did absolutely nothing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What does that remind you of?
Yeah, I know. And the reason he did nothing, right, was because he saw it
He
as
was
an
holding that card so he could attack.
Exactly. Right. He saw it as an opportunity to start a war. Right. This gives me a final chance to be able to go in there. Why? Before these people vote me out of office, let me go ahead and here start this war. And I get one more chance.
Colonial glory.
Exactly. And I'm sure he counted the cost. He probably said, "What is killing 1,500 for me to go kill millions? What is that? We can sacrifice those people, women, children, whatever, right?" And that's exactly what he did. And here's what's happening, Zaid. No one's really talking about it on that level.
Yeah, you're right about that. Nobody's talking about the oil either.
We're not even talking about it on that level. And that's the level we need to be talking about it. Because what it seems like is we're letting this guy off the hook, right? We're letting him off the hook by not having that conversation. But the conversation he's busy having is that he's busy, at every turn, what they're painting a picture of. Oh, they're raping kids. They're raping. They're killing mothers, right? But you just killed, some odd number of children, man. You know what I mean? Make it make sense to me. You killing 13,000 babies. And America, when you think about it, Zaid, America is supposed to be this country that gives so much of a damn about children, but I'm sorry, these children are Palestinians, so we don't give a shit about them.
Somebody from the Cuban Sea Coalition is laying out is busy in the chat about a number of things. One, Cuba condemning, being out front and condemning. I want to lift up. So I mentioned the apartheid regime and the role that it played that complemented what Israel did in the North and the South, but want to compliment the new South Africa and the boldness of them going into the international community and bringing that directly to the international criminal court and the UN Human Rights Commission and whatnot, and to really insist that conversation in the international arena take place on the level it is, and still by virtue of the U.S. power, right, veto and all of that, and funding, right, both of them have cut funds from the United Nations relief efforts, both sides.
Right.
Come on.
Right. You can't make this stuff up, Zaid.
We live in, and we ain't even talking about some of the other areas that we need to be talking about too. Is Africa, Sudan, Haiti, Congo, right? Of the resistance that's emerging in Francophone Africa in places like Mali and whatnot. Our young brother over at Essex County College, need to have him back on our Kill Kelfani. He's helping build the 9th Pan-African Congress that's going to be in Togo, and actually came back from Mali. Mali was one of those countries that pushed the French out. You know,
Right.
they had their chokehold on Chad and Niger and those kind of Burkina Faso and whatnot. And there's uprisings from their ranks that are on a positive tip that needed conversation and support too. So there are a lot of things that are even not in the conversation, and it's a shame that it took, you know, this mass slaughter in real time for an old. This is an old conversation,
Right.
right? This is, you know, Nakba was 1947, 48. When 700,000 people, more than that's 2 Newarks,
Right.
got pushed off their land,
right?
In the expanding of the new Israeli state, right? And that that battle has been a continuum from that old stuff from more than 75 years ago. So it's a shame that it took this long just to get this conversation in this place, and the casualties continue to mount.
Yeah. And we're talking about someone who doesn't want to cease fire, right? You know, he's not interested in that. You know, and all you hear these folks saying is that they must complete the objective, right? Whatever that is, right? Whatever that objective is, they must complete that objective, and that is just absolutely incredible to me, you know. And the fact is, Zaid, and this is true. It seemed like early on, all of the folks who spoke out against it early on, all those folks have paid a price, right?
Yeah.
For coming out and saying that they was, you know, that they saw this genocide and all of that, and most of them have lost their funding, most of them have lost their scholarships, like the young sister.
They wanted. Remember what we were doing on October 7th?
Yeah, I know what we were doing.
Lifting up Amiri, we were lifting up Gary, we were lifting up the work that we've done in this town to bring the violence down, right? There was an early effort to try and come after our funding from the state.
That's right.
For this community-based violence intervention work.
That's
and,
right.
I told our leaders on that front, tell them crazy ass Republicans trying to play games with our money and our kids' lives, that what we're doing in Newark to create peace should be happening between our folks over there and their beef.
Yeah.
If we make peace here, why can't they use those same tools there? Why are you picking us for making peace while you making war? No, we ain't trying to get that mess.
Yeah. And think about it, Zay, you know, when they attacked us, you look at where they are now, bless you, man. And you look at where they are now, right? Remember, they didn't have this information on October 7th when they attacked us, right? But now y'all got all this information that Netanyahu knew about this 3 weeks in advance. You know, make it make sense. He's already killed tens of thousands of people, and he's going after
hashtag Netanyahu too.
Yeah, right. So you know, but we haven't gotten an apology for that attack, and all we were doing was celebrating Amiri's birthday. That's what we were doing. Right? We were lifting up one of our heroes, one of our leaders. That's what we were doing, right? But these folk would come out and saw an opportunity to do that. But I haven't heard any apology. I don't know about you, Zaid, but I haven't heard one. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. The folks want, I mean, you harken back to 911.
Yeah.
Right.
But you would threaten.
They had intel.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had intel. It's fine. It was good. They had intel from the Germans, Israeli intel. They had a lot of intel. They saw this stuff coming, and it happened anyway. Come on.
But Zaid, that's my point. They,
right on.
I've heard them say that the president could be sitting in the Oval Office in the war room, and he could throw a dart, right, and see somebody in Saudi Arabia, right, in the Sudan, and he could kill him.
Yeah.
And
here's the ultimate danger of that, right? Is that do not think these fascists here are not paying attention to that.
Yeah.
Right? That can happen here domestically. Right? If it can happen over there, it can happen domestically here. That's the kind of stuff that Malcolm used to warn us about.
Oh yeah.
Right? You can blow back, and
they could use those weapons on us. There's no doubt about it. Right.
Damn right.
Yeah.
And contradictions within their ranks. That's what Kennedy was about, right? His assassination, right? It blew back.
Right.
You know? And chickens did, in fact, come home to roost, you know.
But that's why, Zaid, I don't think that we can afford to sit this one out, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm with all of the brothers and sisters. You know, I really don't think Biden is on the job. I really don't, right? But from a real perspective, the question is who do we have a better opportunity of negotiating with Trump or with him? What other options do we have? And that is even, because I was thinking about what's happening to our brother Cornel West, right? Where he's running independent. I don't know if you heard this, but of course that the Democratic Party have released an entire contingent of lawyers to prevent him from getting on the ballot in other states. Have you heard that?
No, I can see them. They're dirty like that, though.
Yeah. So because
what they did to Barry Sanders in the South,
right?
They basically stole the primaries in the South for Hillary, doing similar stuff.
Yeah, because what the article was saying in the New York Times was it said that they are afraid that in those battleground states he's going to take away the black vote, and particularly the independent vote, right? So they're afraid of that. And so for people who don't want to throw away their vote, people are saying, well, I'm going to go vote and I'm going to vote for Dr. West. And so what they're doing is that they're challenging everywhere that he gets on the ballot, they're challenging it.
I want to shout. I got to shout somebody out in a real way. And I haven't had a chance to talk to him. We had Charles Barron a couple of weeks
ago. Yeah.
Right. April 12th is the 50th anniversary of Malcolm's Ballad of the Bullet, right? Him and his wife are getting a new show on WBAI on Friday at 5:00.
Oh.
Right? Okay. Yeah, so they get their own drum. They might not be in office, but they can definitely turn it up on those that are selling us out the way they have been when they were in office. I wanted to shout him out. I'm going to be in St. Louis. We're both going to be in St. Louis, but he actually teaches
right
in an electoral school for the Uhuru movement, and I'm going to go out there just to to support him and to support that, because we also got to we have to build power locally, build the capacity of our grassroots folks to run for office and win, like he did. He didn't come out of an electoral background. He came out of a civil rights kind of, he was in the party. Came out of the party, right? And then he was doing some other things, motivational speakers, some entrepreneurial stuff. And then finally he said, "Fuck it, let me try this," right? And went in, we were blazing, blazing. So there are some of us that can actually do that, and we need to be encouraging young folks to think like how he rolled, right? I was asking rhetorically when he was here, like, how come we only have one Charles Barron, and why is it that we're not emulating the handful of genuine, independent Black voices that were not sellouts, who we've elected, that have really made an impact? Why are we not emulating the Adam Clayton Powells and the Maynard Jackson and the Charles Barrons? And why are they the exception to the rule? Did we ever hear Jonathan's just coming back on? Did we ever we missed Congressman? How was our brother doing? Is he all right?
I'm not sure. I hit him up, asked him was he good. He didn't hit me back, so I'm not sure if he was trying to get in or if something happened. I'm not sure, but he didn't hit me back. John, you muted, by the way.
Yep, wasn't saying anything, just saying, hey, what's up? I hear you're having a lively conversation.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the world stage and all of its violence has given us plenty to talk about in the congressman's absence. Where's Rhino? He was chiming in on the chat.
He said he had to go pick up his daughter
Oh, okay.
But he was trying to get back home so he could get on.
Yeah. Have a Marcus Reeves session and not a Rhino. That don't make no sense.
Fair.
But Jonathan, we think about what, and this is what I thought would be a great, bumper sticker. Think about what Marquis said. He said that Trump is bullying his way back in.
I love that. Love that.
Isn't that
Well,
deep?
but that's what people have been saying all along, like literally bullying people into not supporting, like to saying that the election was a lie, right? Literally bullying people to say that he should have won the election. Like he's gaslighting everyone and then punishing people who don't agree with him. Like people who oppose Trump get death threats.
Right.
Like a lot of the people who are resigning is because they literally get calls threatening their life, right?
Jury duty.
Hardcore
You
supporters.
sitting on the jury against him or
Right.
overseeing him. He talking to judges like, I'll beat you behind.
Right. And he's doing this with impunity, right? And he's encouraging his followers, right, to do much of the same by saying that these people are horrible. And he knows how his followers are. They are very strident for him. And we saw him call to violence on January 6th, right? Yeah. That was a call to violence, and that was a long-term call to violence.
And they're looking
months earlier.
Totally cleared by him if he gets back in.
Right.
That's why they were so brazen about it.
Right, because he's like, what you can if he gets back in office,
all good people, good people. I love you.
Right, and the problem, though, I think that when Democrats were in the first few hours and Republicans in the first few hours didn't really press forward with actual criminal charges immediately, right? Like crime had been committed, they should have dealt with that as crime had been committed and deal, right? But they didn't. They waited for 2 years to start anything and delay. He may or may not, have one full trial before the election, which means that if he ends up losing the election or winning the election, then most of those trials he'll owe some money, right? But most of those trials will be for naught.
Money for his defense,
right?
Right,
and he's going to start going after the people who went after him, right? Which he says pretty clear.
Yeah. But therein lies the bullying, John.
Right.
When he says, what's going to happen, how he plans to govern this time around versus the first time he was president. I mean, absolutely incredible. But the problem is, though, Jonathan, how do we get young people engaged again to come out and support this? How?
Well, they look at Joe Biden because of the subject you were talking about before. You talked about the real reason why the situation with Israel and Gaza is hurting Biden is because it's making him into a hypocrite, right? When Joe Biden started, right? He's like, hey, there has to be an international order. There has to be a rules-based order. That's the reason why Russia's bad. Look at what they're doing. They're invading this territory, and we've got to stand and we've got to say something about it, right? But you've got South Africa being like, yo, they're committing genocide. You've got the Hague like going, well, we think they might have a point, right? Like, and you have Biden in so much in denial, and it's not like he made it get better. It got so bad that even the United States didn't veto a UN resolution calling for a ceasefire. Do you know how bad it has to be? Do you know how miserable it has to be for the United States
to
be like
the people in the street, in the United States, in England, in France, turning the volume way up?
Well, and in terms of Biden, though, in Michigan, right? In Michigan, and with a lot of younger people who are turned
uncommitted. The uncommitted movement is real,
and
that's the word I was looking for, Ed.
Okay.
Yeah, the voting uncommitted in the primaries, right? Like, and I think that's one of those things that just has to be done. In that it's a moral issue. It's not even a political issue. I mean, so many people are getting killed. So many kids are being killed. Like, it's just a massive, violent issue that is a moral issue as opposed to a political one. And it's a while because on the Republican end, there's not even a thought that something might be going on that's wrong. Like you look at the moderate Republican who's running and Nikki Haley, and she was like, they need to all of the Palestinians need to get out of Gaza because they're Hamas supporting Palestinians, which she can, and she'd be like, well, you can't tell the difference between them, so you get rid of them.
The Charleston 9 and took the flag down. What happened to that, Nikki Haley?
Right. I mean,
her?
They're ruthless, right? But they're not even acknowledging that there's a humanitarian issue beyond lip service as saying it's humanitarian, it's unfortunate, people are starving, it's unfortunate, but it's necessary to do, right? They like the mainstream Republican response is, yeah, it's bad, but right? And that's like, wow, like you're dealing with this level of violence, this level of indiscriminate violence, that you literally have mainstream politics, like mainstream, right? Mainstream politicians from all over the country, mainstream human rights organizations, like, I mean, put mainstream newspapers, right? Like you literally pointing out over and over again that this is mass murder. That the United States is funding mass murder, right?
Yeah.
You have State Department officials resigning because they're like, you're not even questioning how this aid is going to be used. You're actually in violation of U.S. law that says that if it's going to be used to inflict harm on civilians, you can't use it, or you can't give them those weapons. Where they're not even putting them through those reviews because they know they would fail, right? So I think the real problem with Biden is that he appears to be just a blatant hypocrite and a gaslighter on the level of Trump. So even though I know that there is a difference between the two, like to somebody who's looking at it, right? You're looking at it, it's like Trump gaslights, lies, right? He says he won the election when he knows he didn't win the election. And you have Joe Biden who's like, we can't do anything about this. It's not really genocide. It's not really mass murder. They should just kill fewer people, right? So you have all this double talk, this like dancing around an issue that's so obviously bad right now that when the latest veto came up and the latest UN resolution came up to demand for a ceasefire, and the United States had to be like, we abstain. We're gonna let it go. We're gonna let it ride. Right. Because the contempt of the Netanyahu administration toward the Biden administration is something terrible, right? When you have the Democratic leader of the Senate,
and he earned it,
right? And the Democratic leader of the Senate comes out in a public speech and says, "Netanyahu, you need to leave. We need to do regime change in Israel." I'm like, damn, really?
Yeah.
Like,
and by the way, Chuck Schumer's a Jewish guy from Brooklyn.
Right, and a very friend supporter of Israel, right? Like this is like somebody who's staunch, and that means the murder is so bad.
What's his name?
The killing is so bad. Schumer, Senator Schumer, right? The killing is so bad that publicly, right? I've never heard of a mainstream American leader calling for the resignation of an Israeli leader. Or saying an Israeli leader should move. He didn't call for him to resign, but he just said, you got to go. Hey, Donna.
Hey.
What's up, Donna?
We got you for 3 whole minutes.
Yep.
Three and a half.
No, Donna, she's going to extend it. She's going to be like, wait, come on.
Got to make it
conversation.
You went a whole 20 minutes over last week. Knock it off. I never did that. I never did. So how was your earthquake day?
Man,
my earthquake day was great.
It was? Okay. I said I was singing a song on 2 songs.
Y'all ain't saying nothing. I'm glad y'all all right.
We responded. Everybody responded.
Okay. All right.
You didn't look at your responses.
It was full because I've been calling there some of everybody.
All right. Well, I was singing Carole King. I feel the earth move under my feet. And then the other song I was thinking about was, we would have to change the lyrics. Where were you when the lights went out in New York City? Now it would be, where were you when earthquake happened?
things like that. So just thinking, being creative.
The
Yeah.
East
So,
Coast is lucky that we have not had a major one.
Right.
But New York, Manhattan, right?
Brooklyn.
On a serious fault line,
Yeah.
all them high rises, right? I'm in negotiation for a space, right? That's in the high rise. Right? I happen to like high rises personally, right? But
Right. When a major earthquake ever happens in New York City, oh my God.
Well,
they actually said,
but Zaid, they said that those buildings were doing this today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
and actually,
look here.
Doing that.
and the build sometimes, some buildings, bridges and buildings sometimes are meant to sway, so they just won't respond. But they said something about New York, the buildings are built earthquake day, that they're built on bedrock. So one day we have somebody from construction on, we
Yeah, I
have to
heard
talk
that.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes real deep, so it would be.
Well, the other side of that is the whole question of environmental justice. See, all this fracking, all this dumping, all this stuff in the environment. If you think it's not going to have a consequence like this, we're being naive. That's another thing that is not in the national conversation the way it should.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. New York Airport stopped today for a while. Well, first, since y'all know, shout out to Seton Hall for being the NIT champions. They won last night.
In the NCAA, they were good enough to be in the NCAA. They were wrong to be not included in that.
That's politics over there, but they came home to they came home to a beautiful home welcome today, and student athletes is really a big job, and good. Yesterday, Jonathan, I met a student from Science High, and really nice. His name is Jeffrey Warren, and shout out to Jeffrey. He said he tried to do debate program, but he was in NJ Leap, and they too are very demanding curriculums and responsibilities. So going on, like Mr. Austin with the glasses, yeah, I know. And then we start talking about your mural and everything. So a lot of is your area to hang out at the school? Do students generally hang out in your area?
No, not only if you're debaters, like debaters usually do.
Okay.
But and some of the seventh graders, well, all the seventh graders and eighth graders have debated at some point. But no, never hangout spot. But it's interesting, like when you were talking about just the earthquake and earthquake day, and a lot of people forget that fracking is seen to cause earthquakes, right? Little earthquakes, tremors, right?
Wow.
And
so that's one of the side effects of it's one of the, oh yeah. So
like the Texas Tribune in 2022 talked about how earthquakes in Texas doubled in 2021. Scientists cite year-old oil companies injecting sludgy water underground, right? And that's from 2022, and that is from the
Texas. They talk about that in Texas.
Texas Tribune, one of the major papers in Texas, wrote about that in 2022. So,
and Jonathan, didn't we have a tremor before we came on?
We had a little tremor. It felt like a little tremor. All of us felt it at the same time.
Yeah,
about 6 p.m. right? Yeah, 6. It was after. Yeah.
But it's sort of like what Mayor Baraka said. Remember, he was talking about when he went to Africa, and he said they were telling him about, when he went to the door of no return, they were talking to him about with the weather and all what's going on. And you got to think about the big conversation that we were having, Jonathan, about what's going on in Palestine. Right? You can't believe that God is satisfied with that, particularly in Israel. We're talking about that being a holy land, and we're talking about that being the birthplace of Jesus. This stuff, for those of us who understand spirituality, these things mean something, man. For you now to be getting, earthquakes and tremors, right? In a particular part of the country that don't normally get it, right?
Well, I think that I don't share that belief, but I do share the belief that it's such an intensely emotional issue that people are going to take a lot of things from it, no matter what, right? I think there's a lot of violence going on in the world, right? Like there are a lot of there are multiple genocides going on in the world that we just don't talk about,
Sudan,
right?
Congo.
Right, but there have been, I believe, millions of people killed in the Congo, right? Over the last few years, right? And these places just don't get any traction, except for once Sudan, right? That they're killing people again there now. But I think that the nature of what's going on, because as Ed, what you said is it means a lot to a lot of people. There are a lot of different symbolism that goes on. People are going to read things into it, and that's why it's so politically explosive as well. Right, because of the nature of the violence, and the U.S. is rolling it, and the blatantly contradictory stance that the U.S. has had, where it can't get out a straight sentence without twisting and turning and dancing, and when that happens, that really does.
The State Department trying to justify this to a mainstream press that really ain't been that hard on them.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I think we probably. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jonathan.
Oh no! I was just getting ready to tell you I'm getting ready to jump off.
Okay. Well, no, you can close the show down, and we'll see everybody next week.
Y'all can continue talking. Y'all can, because
No,
it's a good conversation. I don't want to shut it down.
Yeah, but I do want to say before you leave, on Netflix, The Perfect Find, a Gabrielle Union movie, and we gotta talk to Mabel Rocker what he's doing and bringing movies to the city in Newark. And I was all watching more like this Halsey Street. That's right there by the Haynes Building, and when was Gabrielle Union on Halsey Street, and why we didn't know about it?
Got a major studio coming to Freeland Avenue.
Right, and also, Halle Berry filmed the movie there last year. I think it was also on Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, you've seen the Paramount and everything. So those are the ones we don't know about, but the Joker was a big to do. So we all know about, and they just announced a sequel. So I hope to come back but I could see, but The Perfect Find is a beautiful love story, but I think it's a love story to fashion, to ebony and things like that. Remy Ma showed up, and and people actually, so Remy Ma is coming out of her rap and she's going into acting, like it seems, and so many people have done that. And there's always an opportunity for extras, and you might be in the right place at the right time and have the look that people need. So
I wish I had the time to go back into some acting for real. I really do. I had a ball with it. I came to it very late, but I had a ball with it.
I'm gonna jump off, right?
We got to wrap it up.
So I'm just gonna say good night to everybody, and thank our guests. And this was a good show. We got another show next week lined up. We got some guests coming on.
Who's on next week?
We're gonna have the Stephanie Harris is gonna be one of the guests on next week. We've got some other people coming on next week as well. So it should be pretty good.
All right. We no more candidates from the school board you're gonna do?
We might. I'm gonna try to get some of the last ones who haven't been shown up to come on and talk about education and the school board election.
Remind everybody, yes, I think
let's just thank everybody and let's just close it down, man. So let's thank them kids. You know what I mean? We had really,
yes. Yeah, definitely. Let's thank the candidates that came on. We appreciated you, in terms of furthering the conversation on education. Thank you to Marcus Reeves and our retired officer from the former Bronze Shield for coming on and having that conversation. So we appreciated that a lot as well.
And apologies.
Right.
DJ
so
Rhino.
Tijuana Jones Burton coming on talking about that, but also the director, Dwayne Hickman, and all the kids and adults in That's Not Kool. I'm glad that all of you came on. Special shout out to Marquise Lewis for just hey man, this is great. It's going on. We need to come on the show. So
I these young men, and I love that. It was good stuff. Good stuff.
Yep. And so if for everyone and all politics are local, share. Go to our YouTube page and share it, and also like it. our YouTube page. We should have been announcing this all night, and also share it, right? Share the show, share the program as well. We know that some of you share it a lot. We appreciate it. We just want everyone to like the program and to share it. So,
And if you can share it from Facebook or
YouTube.
or YouTube, yeah. So
right,
Facebook banned.
absolutely.
oh, we still banned.
All right. So
Okay.
good night, everybody. I hope you were safe through the earthquake. And until next week, hopefully there are no big earthquakes between this week and next week, and we could be peaceful.
All right, you don't stop.